Sweezen will kick off. Sean Sweezen for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh won the toss and deferred. Jacoby Jones, averaging 28 yards per return, is back to receive the kick. Terrible towels in abundance, and off we go from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with a touchdown. And let's take a look at the Ravens starters.
Joe Flacco, Delaware.
Justin Forsett, UC Berkeley. Kyle Juszczyk, Harvard.
Torrey Smith, Maryland.
Steve Smith Sr., Utah.
Owen Daniels, on Wisconsin.
Eugene Monroe, University of Virginia.
Fletcher Assembly, Iowa State.
Jeremy Zuta, Rutgers.
Marshall Yanda, Iowa.
Rick Wagner, Wisconsin.
So Justin Forsett starts as the running back, and in his first year as a Raven gets taken down behind the line of scrimmage by Cameron Hayward, number 97. Forsett has been a godsend for this team. Remember when the season started, even though Ray Rice was suspended for the first 2 games, and you know the rest, he would have been 1. Bernard Pierce would have been 2, but they pick up Forsett, who had been around the league for a number of years, and he comes in averaging close to 5 yards per carry. Second down and 12 from the 18-yard line, and the pass is caught for a gain of about 5 by Owen Daniels, who caught 2 touchdown passes in that game in week 2. Take a look at Flacco. The first 5 games in this series, 5 TDs and 4 picks, but over the last 8 games, over the last 4 years in effect, 10 touchdowns against Pittsburgh and only 1 interception in those 8 contests. Troy Polamalu, you can't miss him. 12 years in the National Football League, 8 Pro Bowls. Now on 3rd and 5, a timeout has to be taken here by Harbaugh.
30-second timeout.
So John, whose brother Jim lost an excruciating game, San Francisco losing on a crazy play at the end about an hour and a half ago to St. Louis. But John has won a Super Bowl, as has Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, this is a special matchup, isn't it? And there's Gary Kubiak over on the sideline, who is the new offensive coordinator and has done really good things for this Ravens offense. They've sort of gotten back to their roots, being able to run the football after a disastrous year running the ball last year. Got Flacco out on the edge, but this is Dick LeBeau time right here. Anytime you're 3rd and 5 or more, edge goes to the Steelers.
That's Marlon Brown setting up in the backfield. Everybody goes into the pattern, and the pass is caught by Owen Daniels, who had a knee scope, missed the game. He came over from Houston, and of course Gary Kubiak knows all about him, having coached him with the Texans.
See all these guys standing up front, so they're going to try and give you as many different looks as they can. But Joe Flacco, off of a game, and I think you probably like to forget a week ago, comes out and hits a big 3rd down conversion.
Threw 2 interceptions last week against Cincinnati. Bengals rallied to win it at the end. Play action here. Pass caught across the 50-yard line. Torrey Smith makes the catch. It's a 1st down at the Steeler 49. Mike Mitchell makes the tackle.
Well, one of the guys they're going to want to go against here tonight is Bryce McCain. Of course, Gary Kubiak had him when he was with the Texans. Not a very big guy, and they feel like that maybe physically they can match up against him, almost like a basketball sort of game. And here comes the ultimate sort of street fighter out there on him right now, Steve Smith.
1st and 10. Lorenzo Taliaferro, a rookie from Coastal Carolina, in the game, and that is him with the football, and he takes it to the 43-yard line. Gain of about 5, and let's take a look at the Pittsburgh defense.
Cameron Hayward, The Ohio State.
Steve McClendon, Troy University. Cam Thomas, University of North Carolina.
Jason Worlds, Carteret Ramblers.
Ryan Shazier, The Ohio State University.
Lawrence Timmons, Florida State.
Arthur Moats, James Madison.
Bryce McCain, University of Utah.
Troy Polamalu, University of Southern California.
Mike Mitchell, Ohio University.
William Gay, Louisville.
William Gay, pick 6 last week. 77 years old is Dick LeBeau. 56th consecutive year in the league as a player or a coach, Hall of Famer, and that's Taliaferro carrying, and James Harrison, who started the year retired and then was called in week 4 by Tomlin to come back, makes the stop.
That big Steve McClendon right there making his return after being out for a couple of weeks. And if you follow football at all, you know the 34 defense, in particular this 34 defense, it all begins with the nose tackle position. They're glad to have McClendon back.
3rd down and 3. The Ravens use shotgun far less than any team in the league. Only 37% of the time they're in the gun here. And Flacco throws to the outside, and the pass is incomplete, intended for Steve Smith. So this drive comes to a halt, and then comes the punting group.
One of the guys you have to be really careful about is William Gay. He's playing off coverage, but he is thinking immediately he's going to jump that route. A week ago against Andrew Luck, he jumped a route just like that, intercepted it for a touchdown, and I'm sure Joe Flacco had seen that one on film plenty, did not want to take the chance there.
Sam Cook, he's been the Ravens punter since he came into the league as a 6th-round pick in 2006. Antonio Brown, the ever dangerous one, the leading receiver in the league and a pretty good punt return specialist as well, is back to receive it. And he calls for a fair catch and makes it at the 7-yard line. So Roethlisberger will start from deep in his own territory. A little less than 4 minutes into the game. Ravens and Steelers on Sunday Night Football. Well, they're going to retire Joe Green's number tonight, number 75. He is here during the festivities along with a lot of former Steeler greats. Great legacy, great tradition here in Pittsburgh.
And great guy. I mean, out of all the great players, you want to just hang around and have a great football conversation. Pretty high on the list, that guy.
Mean Joe Green. 1st and 10 from the 7-yard line. And Roethlisberger sets up in the pass a little high and off the hands of Martavis Bryant at 6'4", a rookie, as we take a look at the Pittsburgh offense.
Ben Roethlisberger, Miami Redhawks.
Le'Veon Bell, Michigan State.
Antonio Brown, Central Michigan.
Marcus Wheaton, Chandler High School.
Heath Miller, Virginia.
Matt Spaeth, Minnesota.
Kelvin Beachum, Southern Methodist University.
Ramon Foster, Ripley High School. Marquise Pouncey, Lakeland Senior High.
David DeCastro, Stanford.
Marcus Gilbert, University of Florida.
Big night for Gilbert. He was a turnstile in the Week 2 game. Elvis Dumerville almost ran him out of the stadium. And so a score to settle tonight for him, as the carry is good for a gain of 4 by Le'Veon Bell. So Ben Roethlisberger, you go back to last week, I mean, he just did everything right. 40 out of 49 and a few drops there. He was almost perfect. 522 yards, 6 touchdowns. It's the 2nd time in his career he's thrown for over 500 yards. He's the only quarterback who can lay claim to that.
Could have easily set the NFL record. They basically ran the football the final 5 minutes, and you talk to the coaches, they said they had absolutely no idea that the record was within reach.
3rd down and 7. And Roethlisberger shoots one out to the right side, but well short of the 1st down. Le'Veon Bell, not only a great runner, but a fine receiver as well, pushed out by the rookie C.J. Mosley. And Pittsburgh with a 3-and-out on its first drive.
Here's Elvis Dumerville here working against Marcus Gilbert. And the last time these two teams got together, it was Dumerville who planted Gilbert right into Ben Roethlisberger a couple of times. It was definitely an embarrassing night. Gilbert coming off of a concussion and would like a little revenge here tonight.
Brad Wing, born in Australia, played his college football at Louisiana State. And the left-footed kicker sends one into the night sky, hauled in at the 40-yard line by Jacoby Jones into Pittsburgh territory. And a 25-yard run back to the 35 to set the Ravens up in very good position, as Flacco will take over for the 2nd time.
Well, it's always this way, isn't it? You kind of get a little field position game, and this game just seems like it always comes down to a 3-point margin one way or another. But you do get the feeling that the Pittsburgh Steelers defensively would like to get back to a little bit of who they were. And having James Harrison back in the lineup, Brett Kiesel, 2 old war horses that have been around here, Troy Polamalu, they know what this rivalry is all about.
from the 35 on a straight drop, and Flacco's going to go deep, and it's going to be caught by Torrey Smith for a touchdown. Torrey Smith, who's been averaging only a little more than 2 catches per game this season, holds one in, one play, 35 yards, and Baltimore takes the lead.
Now, we talked about it. Gary Kubiak really felt like they could take advantage with a bigger receiver like Torrey Smith. And Torrey Smith has not been much of a factor so far this year. Only 18 catches, but 4 of those going for touchdowns. And here they find the matchup they like, and they're going to try and exploit that one all night.
So Jacoby Jones sets him up, the 25-yard run back, and then Flacco goes for the kill shot. And Justin Tucker comes in to try to make it 7-0. And so 5 minutes and 19 seconds into the game. As the second half of the season begins, each team 5-3, and Baltimore has the lead. And there's a smiling Joe Flacco, who has given his team a 7-0 lead, and on the other side, the guy who got beat, Bryce McCain. And the kickoff bounds into the end zone, and Roethlisberger will go to work from the 20. You know, it's a funny thing with Flacco. He had that tremendous postseason, of course, leading them to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Last year, he only threw 1 touchdown pass, more than 20 yards from scrimmage. Already this season, he's had 8. So the worst year of his career last year, and now back on target again.
And so many of those going to Steve Smith on the other side. But if they can get a little balance going with Torrey Smith on the opposite side, this team could be tough to handle. I still think the thing they do best is run behind this offensive line. This offensive line is as good as you'll see.
All right, the Steelers now 3 and out on their first possession. Le'Veon Bell is the running back. Play action. Ben steps up, gets away, extends the play as he so often does and has done for years, and the pass is incomplete. Intended for Brown. Ladarius Webb covering on the play. Second down.
Matt Spaeth, the tight end here, has a big assignment tonight. He is going to have to help on Terrell Suggs on the outside. Terrell Suggs in the past has just been a nightmare for Ben Roethlisberger, so they're going to provide a little help. Matt Spaeth, no catches on the year. He is definitely their designated blocker.
Suggs has sacked Roethlisberger 11.5 times over the years in the regular season and 5 times in postseason games. And threading his way through the middle is Bell for a gain of 5 as we take a look at the Baltimore defense.
Altingata, Oregon. Brandon Williams. Moso. D'Angelo Tyson, Georgia.
Hacksaw, Ball So Hard University.
CJ Mosley, Alabama.
Darrell Smith, Georgia Tech.
Courtney Upshaw, University of Alabama.
Ladarius Webb, Nicholls State.
Matt Elam, Dwyer High School.
Darian Stewart, South Carolina.
Dominique Franks, Tulsa Union High School.
Again, minus Jimmy Smith. C.J. Mosley introducing himself there, the rookie #1 pick out of Alabama. He's off to a great start in his career, been a starter since opening day. 3rd and 5. Pressure on Ben, he gets it away, and the pass is incomplete off the hands, that time of Brown, and Webb covering again. So Pittsburgh has had the ball twice, and they've yet to pick up a first down.
Boy, it is so nice for the Ravens and John Harbaugh to have Ladarius Webb back. He had a back injury and really was struggling out most of the first 4 games. But both of these teams, Jimmy Smith, their other starting cornerback out. So both teams, I would say, in this game, the question mark is going to be the cornerback play. And so far, the Ravens have been better.
Brad Wing to punt. Jacoby Jones, who had that good run back to set up the touchdown. Short kick fielded 35-yard line. And Jacoby Jones will be taken out of bounds at the Baltimore bench at the 41-yard line by C.J. Mosley. 7-0 Baltimore. Well, to go along with Flacco, a couple of very big new additions. Gary Kubiak comes in as the offensive coordinator, was the head coach of the Texans for 8 years, and Steve Smith, who had 13 mostly terrific years with Carolina, was let go by the Panthers and is now a Raven. And Flacco with a deep drop, and the pass is incomplete. Gary Kubiak, by the way, we were in Houston a year ago tonight. It was a scary scene. He collapsed going off the field at halftime, had what turned out to be a mini stroke. For all the world, it looked like a bad heart attack. They took him to the hospital. He was back coaching 2 weeks later, but it was a horrible year for the Texans. He wound up getting fired, so he was on the street, and he wasn't going to be looking for a job very long when Jim Caldwell got the job as head coach at Detroit, and John Harbaugh got together with Kubiak. This is Forsett to the outside, who played for Kubiak in Houston, a couple of yards shy of a first.
You know what was interesting is that John Harbaugh said that he was really calling Rick Dennison about Kyle Shanahan. He didn't think Gary Kubiak was even interested in the job. And during the course of the conversation, Dennison said, well, what do you think about Gary Kubiak? He said, I didn't think he was interested. And within about a 48-hour period of time, he was the offensive coordinator here.
And Dennison comes with him, and Dennison, who was a linebacker, as a player, is the quarterback's coach. 3rd and 2. And the pass is incomplete, as looking one way and then the other goes Flacco off the hands of Steve Smith. 4th down.
Troy Polamalu's got his eyes on Steve Smith right here. Watch him sneak right around the blocker to be able to get in the backfield and make sure this one did not happen. So far, not a lot of luck coming this way. The target thus far has been on the other side of the field, Bryce McCain, who's really playing because of the injury to Ike Taylor.
Antonio Brown back to receive at the 10-yard line. This will be Sam Cook's second punt. Center is Kevin McDermott. Not supposed to can the center, but don't tell the Steelers after the last punt. Let's see what they do here. Not this time. Fair catch called for, made at the 12-yard line. So the Steelers still seeking their first down, have the ball halfway through the first quarter. 7-0 Ravens. Pittsburgh's run game going between the tackles 71% of the time, 5th highest rate in the league, and averaging 4.7. There's Le'Veon Bell, and he lives on the inside. And LeGarrette Blount, pretty much the same thing, averaging 5 yards per carry. Picked him up in the offseason from New England. A nice little 1-2 punch, but they've got to run against that Baltimore defense.
Yeah, good luck on that. Although Le'Veon Bell did have a few runs in that last game, and so far they really haven't given him much of a chance. When you play against a front seven this stout, you have to establish yourself physically a little bit with that offensive line. If you just keep dropping back in pass protection, it's going to be a long night for Ben.
So 99 Chris Canty in there. He's missed 4 games with wrist surgery and a subsequent infection. That's a gain of about 4 for Le'Veon Bell, their second-round pick out of Michigan State last year.
It was interesting talking to Mike Tomlin about this Ravens defense. He said they really have 3 anchor points, guys who basically don't come out. You got Terrell Suggs, of course, on the sideline. As soon as I said that, has a sack in each of the last 3 games. There's Daryl Smith, sort of the hub of the communication world for them, and Lodi Nada, who has been to 5 straight Pro Bowls. Those guys are sort of the key to this defense.
6 good linebackers in Raven colors, and meanwhile this is Bell escaping at first, but then he'll get surrounded and tackled at the 6-yard line. Got away from Canty, but nowhere to roam. And Pittsburgh right now still looking for that elusive first down, faced with a 3rd and 15.
Chris Canty, I believe, is right there. And at least thus far, Le'Veon Bell sort of has the reputation as being an extremely patient runner. And what the Ravens wanted to counter with was patience as well. They did not want to commit to one side or another. They wanted to sit and wait, of course, push the lineman back in the backfield a little bit and not let that patience pay off for Le'Veon Bell, and so far it hasn't.
That was a loss of 8. Roethlisberger now in the pistol for the first time. Flag is thrown. It's our first flag of the game. Ben is going to air it out, going very deep and incomplete. And another flag gets thrown as well. So Antonio Brown was the intended receiver. And for the first time tonight, we'll hear from Bill Vinovich.
Offside. Defense number 58. 5-yard penalty. Repeat, third down.
And that makes it 3rd down and 9. Elvis Dumerville trying to get a head start in the rush to the quarterback. What a pickup he's been. 7 sacks, including 2 last week. Well, it looks like Bell starts to rock a little bit there.
Yeah, definitely could have been called, but great job by Ben. Once he saw the offsides, probably checked to see the flag thrown and then just took a shot.
So now 3rd down and 9. Against the 4-man rush, Roethlisberger throws over the middle, caught at the 18-yard line, and it's Bell trying to move to the 22, but as you can see, the line judge comes in. He'll spot it about a half a yard shy, and it's going to be 4th down.
That's one of the things that Todd Haley, the offensive coordinator for the Steelers, wants to see more of from Ben Roethlisberger, dumping it down to Le'Veon Bell and let him go ahead and try and pick up the 1st down. And some of those tough 3rd and long situations almost worked there.
Haley now in his 3rd year as the offensive coordinator. Before that, head coach at Kansas City. So already the 5th punt of the game. 3rd for Pittsburgh here. And Brad Wing on a 4th and 1. Gets this one away. Jones is going to call for a fair catch this time at the 29-yard line. So 5:05 left in the opening frame. 7-0 Baltimore. How about Dick LeBeau, a player with Detroit, the coach the rest of his career, 832 regular season games and 33 postseason games for Dick LeBeau. And somehow, some way, through all of that, he managed to find enough time to become a scratch golfer. Well, we've had a bunch of blowouts on Sunday Night Football, but here's some good news for you. The last 6 games these teams have played in this stadium have all been determined, every one of them, by 3 points.
So get a pot of coffee, stay up late. We're ready for you here. We're ready for one of those kind of games. And, you know, it's interesting for Dick LeBeau. He has been such a great coach and defensive coordinator, always ranked sort of in the top 5 defensively. But this team is awfully young and has made a lot of mistakes.
Check it down to Juszczyk, the fullback, and he has a 1st down, getting it up to the 40-yard line. Goes the 4th-round draft choice from Harvard.
Well, Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback right here, gets more snaps as a fullback than any other fullback in the game, and the number 2 team in that category, John Harbaugh's brother Jim with Bruce Miller. So they are old school guys that still believe in that fullback-based offense.
From the 42-yard line, Taliaferro. You know, of course, you look at the Ravens. I mean, less than 2 years ago, they won the Super Bowl. They beat San Francisco in New Orleans. Of the 22 guys who started in that game, only 8 are still with the team. It's today's NFL, isn't it?
That's the way it goes. And unfortunately for the Steelers, Ryan Shazier is down.
And he's coming back from an injury, having missed the last 4 games. The number 1 pick, Ryan Shazier out of Ohio State, got hurt in the Sunday night game at Carolina. Missed 4 games with a knee injury. This time to go to work on his ankle. Here's what happened.
As so often happens, you get somebody lands on the back of your leg and you get pushed over the top. But Ryan Shazier really has not had a chance to really show what he can do yet for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was out weeks 4 through 7, but a 1st-team All-American, led Ohio State in tackles for 2 straight years. Good player.
Sean Spence, 51, replaces him. Meanwhile, Flacco under pressure, tried to get it away. Stephon Tuitt, rookie out of Notre Dame, put the heat on.
It's one of those sort of naked bootlegs that Gary Kubiak brings in here, and Tuitt's just going to come right around, really unblocked. Good job by Flacco getting rid of it. Tuitt led Notre Dame in sacks his last couple of years there, and yet to get one, but that was close.
So 3rd down and 7. The crowd, which has been fairly silent thus far, now coming to life on a 3rd and 7. Flacco in the pocket. It collapses, and down he goes at the 39. So they get the sack of James Harrison. the longtime Steeler who went to Cincinnati, then retired. And when Shazier got hurt in the Carolina game, Tomlin made the call to Harrison, and back he comes, number 92.
They just look like the Pittsburgh Steelers when you have James Harrison in there. And when you're playing in this game, in this rivalry, to have that intensity come back on the field, it just feels different for the Pittsburgh Steelers defensively.
Feels different, looks the same. Flacco did not get sacked in the first game this year between these two teams. Line drive kick will bounce, out of bounds inside the 5-yard line. So it turns out to be a terrific kick by Cook, and they'll spot the ball at the 3-yard line. 58-yard kick. Ben Roethlisberger, that huge day, 522 yards against the Colts. Only player in NFL history, 500 or more yards more than once. 81.6%, so he was 40 out of 49 in that game. And he wasn't sacked or intercepted, so he had phenomenal protection and a career day.
Yeah, they had 34 first downs last week in that game, the most since 1979. So far tonight, 0. And this is exactly what it looked like the last time they played the Ravens. So offensively, you wondered which one would it be, the one we saw last week or against the Ravens. So far, it's been the one we saw against the Ravens.
Fourth time Pittsburgh's had the ball. And starting to slip is Le'Veon Bell, who carries for the 5th time in the game, and he has 6 total yards. Second down.
And I think that's going to be the question this evening is, physically, can this offensive line hold up? John Harbaugh really felt like the edge that they had in this game was that their front 7 could match up very well against this offensive line. And if you take away the running game, Le'Veon Bell has been such a big part of this. You take away the play action, and all of a sudden the Steelers are reduced to just dropping back and throwing it, and that's not going to work against this defense.
To this point, they've taken away everything. Roethlisberger through the air, 2 of 5 for 11 yards. Now Ben slings one to the outside. That's caught. This is Brown twirling around and picking up Pittsburgh's first down. Twirled around Webb. So Antonio Brown, who has now moved himself into the elite category among receivers, leads the league in receptions with 60. Second in the league in receiving yards, and of course he's terrific on running back punts as well.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin, we asked about his wide receivers. He said it's cool in the gang. He said Antonio Brown is cool and the rest of them are the gang. No matter what the situation is, Antonio Brown is going to be front and center.
Kind of runs through the 3 Bs, Bell, Brown, and Ben, the Pittsburgh offense. Minute and a half to go in the quarter. Now you've got Blunt and LeGarrette Blunt doing what he does so well, taking people with him, breaking tackles. Gain of 9. A load.
Well, if you're going to run that way, you have to take care of Haloti Ngata, and that is right here. They're going to try and take him out with the double team, effectively get that done, and then get the big guy, LeGarrette Blunt. I was just wondering in this game, this sort of man against man physical matchup, if we might see a little bit more of the physical style of LeGarrette Blunt. Good start for him.
6 feet and 250 pounds is Blunt. And here he goes again and spins his way to the 32-yard line and signals a first down. Yes, sir, it is.
That's another Pittsburgh Steelers.
Ravens trying to stunt like this, and you get Matt Spaeth just going to wash it down from the outside and creates just a little bit of a gap there for LeGarrette Blunt. But now at least you're starting to establish something on the ground here against this front.
Waning seconds of the first quarter. Brown blocking out in front, and he will take the ball up to the 37-yard line, and that's going to take us to the end of the first quarter with the score. Baltimore 7, Pittsburgh nothing. And Sunday Night Football resumes after these messages. LeGarrette Blunt starts the second quarter with a gain of a couple.
Yeah, you watch enough film on guys and you begin to pick things up. Antonio Brown, watch what he does with his gloves, sort of like a nervous batter in the box. And a pass play, he seems to fix them more often. On the run, maybe just flexes them a little bit, but you will see him at the line of scrimmage, and he'll do this a lot. You want those gloves as tight as they possibly can. Does adjust just a little bit there, but we even talked to him about it, and so maybe he's trying to throw a few people off with it here tonight. But in the past couple of games, that has been a pretty good tip that he's about to catch a pass, or at least have a pass run.
You were trying to coach him up the other day.
I did, and I think he's actually doing it. Now he's starting to do it not just on the pass plays.
Flag on the play. Blunt takes the ball through the middle of the 46-yard line. Bill Vinovich.
Illegal use of hands. Hands in the face. Offense number 53. 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
Marquise Pouncey, the center.
Just a different team, isn't it, when he's in the ball game? I think he and David DeCastro up front work so well together. A lot of those combination blocks, and they're going to have to be good here tonight. First came off of that injury and first play of the game, or first game of the year, I should say, and he is the unquestioned leader of this offensive line.
Tore his ACL in the opener last season. One of the reasons that Pittsburgh got off to such a rocky start last year. They were 2-6 at the halfway mark. Finished winning 6 of 8 and wound up 8 of 8. Roethlisberger with the protection breaking down, and a bunch of Ravens all knock him to the turf at the 24-yard line with Chris Canty right there and Elvis Dumervil as well.
Yeah, they caught him with a blitz here, come right off the edge, and nobody picks up Matt Elam, the safety who was up on the line of scrimmage in coverage and has been stepped up. One thing you have to have, and it's almost impossible to get against this defense, is a good front. You got to have guys that can hold the point up there so Ben can step up. But you get the blitz around the outside, you get the push up the middle, and you get a sack.
Canty is given half a sack. The other half goes to Elam. It's second down and 26 from the 25-yard line. And Ben under pressure again. And Roethlisberger not sacked at all last week. Back-to-back sacks, and there is Haloti Ngata. That's going to make it third down and 33.
Now you've got Pernell McPhee bringing the pressure over here, which again forces Ben to step up. And where does he step up? Right into Haloti Ngata. So the pass rush works hand in hand. You get the pressure around the back end, and right now you get the feeling that Ben is having some flashbacks to games gone by, because this football team has not done a good job, did not in that first one, in pass protection.
Third and 33, not the symmetry you're looking for if you're an offense. And Ben under pressure again, and that's a hat trick. Dumervil, go figure that. Plays an entire game last week, doesn't get sacked once, and gets sacked on 3 consecutive plays.
They weren't playing the Baltimore Ravens, and here's the matchup we were talking about earlier. Elvis Dumervil, who really embarrassed Marcus Gilbert the last time out. Dumervil turned that corner at about a 45-degree angle, and Gilbert had no chance.
So after Pittsburgh picks up its first 3 first downs of the game, they face a 4th and 39. So the wind direction against the kicker. 9 miles an hour. Pressure's put on. Wing gets it away. Fair catch called for and made by Jones at the 45. So Elvis Dumervil, the former Denver Bronco, with a late flag. So have the band hold it for 1 second as we get the call here before we go to a little commerce.
Boy, this has been rough. Come off a 51-point game.
Personal foul. Receiving team number 50. 15 yards from the end of the play. Baltimore keeps the ball. First down. Timeout.
That is Albert McClellan. 11:24 to the half. 7-0 Ravens. Mike Munchak had been the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. First season as the Steelers' offensive line coach. And right now that offensive line trying to figure out what's going on. Giving up 3 consecutive sacks. The ball is at the 30-yard line as Baltimore takes over there. And Bernard Pierce, who missed a couple of games with an injury earlier this season and was a healthy scratch last week. Started the year, would have been the number 2 running back, but right now he'd be number 3.
But he had his best game against the Pittsburgh Steelers earlier, 22 rushes in that one for 96 yards. And Harbaugh just thought that maybe he could rekindle a little bit of that magic. And Justin Forsett, just a little bit of a sprained ankle. I asked him about him down on the field before the game. He said he was fine, but that's the reason they wanted Pierce up.
He missed a little practice time with Forsett this week. And here he is, and Forsett swings to the outside and takes it to the 44. A guy who went to Cal, came up with Seattle, played with Indianapolis, Houston, and Jacksonville, now with his 15 gain of 12.
And this is what Gary Kubiak's offense is all about. They want you to start running one way. It's the stretch offense, and that's sort of the inside zone. You see them all moving to their left, and then you get deep in there and cut back across. But it also sets up some bootlegs, some outside throws, and Joe Flacco really likes this offense.
Forsett averaging 5.5 yards per carry this season. Now they go to the rookie, Lorenzo Taliaferro, who scored 29 touchdowns at Coastal Carolina last year. Picked him in the 4th round, gain of 5.
Yeah, Taliaferro, a big guy. He leads them with 4 rushing touchdowns. So a lot of different looks. It's been, I think Forsett was brought over, and he ended up being a real steal as a free agent, just basically because he knew a little something about Gary Kubiak's offense. But they are now becoming very balanced, coming in and out with these running backs, and really can play any of them.
2nd and 5 from the 49. Keep it on the ground. And the ball is on the ground and picked up by McCain. And McCain takes the ball to the 28-yard line. So they kept it on the ground on a 2nd down and 5. And Taliaferro with the fumble and a big turnover for the Steelers.
Well, we talked about the old guys. Watch Brett Kiesel, number 99 there. Looks like he got his hand in there and knocked that thing out. And this is really what the Pittsburgh Steelers needed. They were backed up this entire game thus far, and catch a break that they desperately needed.
Arthur Moats forces the fumble, the outside linebacker. Picked up by McCain, and that sets the offense up at the Baltimore 27-yard line. And Flacco comes in to make the tackle. So the rookie with a fumble. And now Pittsburgh down by 7, in great shape at the 27 with 9:14 left in the half. Le'Veon Bell is the running back. Ben will take the snap out of the gun. And extra protection this time after those 3 consecutive sacks. Ben under pressure again. Throws tip incomplete. Intended for Antonio Brown. Crowd wants a flag, doesn't get one. Matt Elam again comes in on the safety blitz. 2nd and 10.
Well, you can see Roethlisberger. He has just been under siege. His eyes are having to scan very quickly. Just look back and flip this thing. I thought it was a pretty good play defensively by Ladarius Webb. Well, this is a chance for this Ravens defense, though, to make a big-time stand. They have been sensational in the red zone, number 2 in the league. Not quite to that point yet here.
2nd and 10. Heavy heat put on, flag thrown, and that's Brown who gets taken down.
We'll get a horse collar out of that one.
Horse collar there. You got heavy pressure put on as well that time as the Ravens sent the house. Could have a roughing the passer as well here.
And a little bit of a busted jaw. Look at that. We have seen Ben in some pain. He was talking about the hit that Courtney Upshaw put on him in the first game that still bothers him. We've seen Ben with a broken nose. We've seen him now trying to figure out how to get his jaw working again.
There's that horse collar on Webb, taking Brown down. Vinovich telling one of the Steelers to
There are 3 penalties on the play. All on the defense. Holding. Number 26. Personal foul. Horse collar. Number 21. Personal foul. Roughing the passer. 15 yards from the end of the run. Automatic first down.
I might march that one right in the end zone.
I can't remember seeing that.
I can't. Of course, we've seen a lot of things. 3 straight sacks and now 3 penalties on one play. Maybe that's going to be the theme. You know, but, all right, this is going to sound bad, but I don't think John Harbaugh cares. This is Courtney Upshaw. That's a late hit. There's no question about it. I'm going to guess that they probably say, you know what, guys, our goal is to hit Ben Roethlisberger. And the way he's flexing that jaw right now, that's mission accomplished early in this game.
So now the ball's at the 10. It's a first down and goal. Roethlisberger out of the pistol. Hands the ball to Blunt. Second down and goal.
Some of the big hits we've seen on Ben Roethlisberger over the years, and this is Bart Scott. He said this was the worst of all. And then, of course, here's Elodie Nada with the broken nose, which they told us up in the booth it was not broken. We thought it probably was. And then this one, Courtney Upshaw drills him. That was a foul as well in week 2. And Ben saying that one is still bothering him.
Second and goal. Blunt is the back. Blunt. You know, we asked Ben the other day, when you retire, how are you going to look back on this rivalry? He says bumps, bruises, lingering effects, cracked ribs, broken noses, deformities. I won't miss it when I'm done.
I don't think he will either. But I tell you, he is the signature guy with this team right now. Because when you're playing the Ravens, your quarterback is going to get beat up. And if he cowers at all, you've got problems. But Ben Roethlisberger, in all the days of playing in this rivalry, has never cowered.
Halfway through the second quarter, it's third down and goal from the 5. 3-man rush. Pass caught. Touchdown. Le'Veon Bell. So they get the takeaway after the fumble by Taliaferro. Then the penalties move them to the 10-yard line, and despite no question getting whacked in the jaw, Ben leads them into the end zone, an extra point away from the tie game.
Here goes Le'Veon Bell, an excellent receiver up against a linebacker, C.J. Mosley, and they feel like that is a matchup that favors them. And so for all the shots that Ben Roethlisberger has taken already in this game, he hangs in, and we're an extra point away from a tie score.
Sweezum with the game tied. As tough as they come, he's been doing it since 2004. Ben Roethlisberger. Game tied, 7-7. Ben Roethlisberger cashing in after the takeaway. And now Sweezum to kick off with 7:18 to go in the tie game in the first half. And that's taken by one of the up men. That's Kyle Juszczyk, who takes the ball out to the 38-yard line. Everybody taking selfies these days. There was one of the greatest tight ends in the history of the National Football League with the Cleveland Browns, Ozzie Newsome. Not bad as an executive either. We mentioned of the 22 guys who started in the Super Bowl less than 2 years ago, only those 5 from the offense, and those 3 from the defense are still on the team. So it's been a retooling, revamping situation in Baltimore, and here they are, 5-3, and still very much a contender. As Flacco goes back to pass on first down, and then has to dump it down underneath. Pass incomplete, flag thrown by Vinovich as Flacco goes to the turf.
Personal foul. Roughing the passer. Defense number 90. Driving the quarterback into the ground. 15 yards from the previous spot. Automatic first down.
Nose tackle Steve McClendon draws the flag.
So as he continued to step up, McClendon here, this is absolutely clean. But now when you sort of pull him up and drive the shoulder down into him, I know there's a lot of guys who played football in high school going, what are you talking about? But that is the NFL's version of protecting the quarterbacks. And if you've seen enough football when the starting quarterbacks are out, you know why they do it.
Overprotecting. I wonder what Joe Green thinks about that. Says, I'm glad I played when I did.
Yeah, Joe probably did that a couple times.
Ball at the 48-yard line. Flacco now retreating. Hit his throws. Picked off at the 40-yard line. Jason Worlds. Down the sideline he goes, and out of bounds inside the 30. You had Harrison putting the pressure on that time on Flacco, forcing the throw, and Pittsburgh has another takeaway.
Come with Polamalu off this edge, drop Worlds off the back end, and James Harrison once again. He has ignited this Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and it is Jason Worlds who benefits from it. And right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have had some questions about this defense, this game is now turning in their favor because of what they're doing with some of their old school guys.
Old school guys. There's Worlds with the pick, but Harrison forced the issue. I mean, Harrison, this is crazy. This guy was retired, but he was still working out at 4:30 in the morning. We know that because Brett Kiesel texted him and said, come on back, we need you.
Yeah, after Jarvis Jones got hurt, said I knew he'd be awake. The lunatic works out at 4:30, and he texted him then, and he was.
To the outside, this is Bryant. And the 6'6", 6'4" rookie from Clemson picks up 7. We go to Michelle.
Well, you know, before returning to the Steelers, Harrison had done nothing football-wise since last January. He rejoined the team on the Wednesday of Week 4 and played that Sunday. He told me he was overweight and out of shape, but that he's lost 14 pounds. He's moving better than when he first came back. Still, he said, physically, the last 2 to 3 weeks were, and I quote, the worst he's felt in his life.
And there he is, and of course he loves Dick LeBeau, the defensive coordinator here for so many years. Harrison, many moons ago, was actually a Raven for about 20 minutes and got released. Here is Dre Archer, who was the fastest guy in the combine this year, a rookie out of Kent State across the neighboring Ohio border, and he's able to move the chains. First down.
Well, I think most people think that when Archer is in the game, that it's going to be some kind of a pass, it's going to be some kind of a trick shot, you know, whatever the case may be. But this time they just go the draw, and this is starting to look a whole lot like the Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens. That's C.J. Mosley, the rookie, who's been sensational so far for the Ravens.
Now Bell's in the game, and they slot him. 5 receivers, all going out. Bend in the end zone, caught, touchdown, Bryant. So Harrison sets it up, forces the interception, and Bryant, who was inactive for the first 6 games, has now scored his 4th touchdown in 3 games.
Completely blown coverage here. The corner stays, there's nobody in the deep flat, and that's just an easy touchdown. Great read by Ben Roethlisberger. Little pump fake, Kelvin Beachum. Good protection, and that is the best pocket we have seen so far, but a blown coverage that time by the Ravens.
Squeeze him in for the extra point. Steelers converting both turnovers into touchdowns. And this baby is turned on a dime. 5:24 remaining in the half. 14-7 Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, PA. Steelers on top 14-7 on Sunday Night Football. Jacoby Jones back to receive the kickoff. Chance to run it back. Jones from the 1. And then he falls down at the 23-yard line. And back we go to the touchdown.
Well, you've got Dominic Franks here, and then in the middle of the field is Darian Stewart. There's no way with him here that it's not the job of Dominic Franks to have that deep third. He gets enamored with the tight end on the outside, and there's simply nobody in that zone. And the reason Dominic Franks is playing in this game is because of the injury to Jimmy Smith, the sprained foot, a week ago. But that young man's a story as well.
Yes, he is, out of Clemson. As Flacco throws, that's caught. And a gain of 11 for Smith after so many years in Carolina. He was, last year he was rehabbing, got healthy for the playoffs. He thought he would end his career in Carolina. Told us last night that, you know what, I was going to play one more year and retire. Well, they said you're gone. And off he goes as a free agent to Baltimore. At least right now he's got a 3-year contract.
And he's setting the world on fire. 3 touchdowns already, over 50 yards.
From the 35, and that is caught. Smith again for a gain of 9.
I thought after Anquan Bolden left that this was a team that offensively needed that kind of attitude, if you will, especially out of the wide receiver position. Steve Smith watches tape with the intent of getting angry at the defenders. And you will see him throughout the course of the game. It doesn't matter how big they are. He will challenge and take on anybody.
He calls himself the assessor. He assesses every defensive back he's going to play, looks at tape all week long. And then John Harbaugh was telling us he wanted to really stir it up a little bit in the locker room. So he puts his locker next to Suggs' locker. And that's got to be a little bit of craziness.
Well, he said they get in wrestling matches almost every day over there, and you wouldn't believe it, but Steve Smith Sr. wins more than Suggs does. That he is like a guy that fought every day to get on the school bus in Los Angeles, and so he doesn't care what's going on. If this thing turns into a fist fight out here, those are 2 guys you want on your team.
He has leverage.
Yeah.
Back.
Taliaferro is the running back behind the fullback Juszczyk, and Pittsburgh is going to stuff him. Apparently a little shy of the first down. He's trying to lunge forward, but they're going to be a little short of the first down. 4th and inches.
We got James Harrison out there on the outside, crashing down inside. Then they tried to bounce it out around. But for the Pittsburgh Steelers, after a bit of a sleepy start, this defense has awakened them.
Well, you've got Harrison is down. That's James Harrison who needs the attention prior to what will be a 4th down play. So James Harrison, phenomenal career here. Remember, he was cut by the Steelers early on. I mentioned he was in the Baltimore camp at the beginning of his career. Finally lashes on and will forever go down in NFL lore with one of the most incredible plays ever seen. That 100-yard interception return at the end of the first half of the Super Bowl against Arizona following the 08 campaign.
I really think that was probably the most exciting play in Super Bowl history, and this is a tough blow. A guy that was basically out of football. They needed him. He came back and has provided such a spark. 2 sacks a week ago, 2 dynamic plays in this one, and now that knee or leg gets bent back over the top, and boy, he sets the high water mark around here, doesn't he? The standard for work, the standard for what a Pittsburgh Steeler is, and you hope he's okay.
Well, he's going to walk off with a little bit of a limp here. I say you're setting a standard for work ethic when you're retired and you're working out at 4:30 in the morning.
No doubt about it.
That's a new standard.
And unless they're taking him to surgery, my bet is he'll probably be back in this game.
So it's 4th and 1, and the Ravens are going to at least line up to go for it. And Pittsburgh's going to take a timeout.
Pittsburgh.
So timeout. We'll see what Baltimore has in mind when we come back. Well, Baltimore's offense remains on the field. Harrison goes to get some treatment on the table. This is quite the gamble if they do go for it. Giving up 14 straight points to give the ball back on their half of the field. Taliaferro is the running back, and Flacco is going to bull his way for a first down. So a sneak right through the middle, and it's a first down.
You know, it's sort of interesting that the Cincinnati Bengals took advantage of the Ravens with a little bit of this push technique. Watch Rick Wagner come around the backside here and basically be the tiebreaker in the scrum, pushing Joe Flacco forward. So big first down for the Ravens.
Quick count, pass underneath, caught by Forsett. He gets chased and is finally out of bounds at the 30-yard line. And let's go to Michelle.
Well, you saw James Harrison out, but also we've got Ryan Shazier doubtful with a right ankle. You know, we saw him tweak that ankle earlier in the game, came to the sideline, went back in and tried a couple of plays, but it didn't go very well. So he is doubtful with a right ankle, and we're getting more on Harrison as we speak.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. It was a knee that took Shazier out for 4 weeks. Now it's the ankle, so they're minus a couple of linebackers. The ball is at the 30-yard line. Off play action, good protection, but underneath it's caught by Forsett. He gets popped by Polamalu, and down he goes, and now there's another injured Steeler, and that is Polamalu, who gets up and hops off at the 2-minute warning. 14-7 Pittsburgh.
Jeez.
Well, Harrison comes back in. Polamalu didn't have to come out. He limped off, but the clock was stopped for the 2-minute warning, so he doesn't even have to come out for one play. They're both back in, and it's 2nd down and 8 at the 28-yard line for the Ravens.
Those two gave each other a little chest bump and said, take more than that to knock us out.
Flacco gets hit as he throws, and the pass is incomplete. And it's James Harrison. What leg injury or whatever he suffered, nothing stops this guy.
He is just on the attack right now. This time stunts down inside, gets a direct shot on Flacco, and these two quarterbacks are under siege right now. Joe Flacco had the one interception, but it is going to come down to which one of these two quarterbacks can survive this game.
3rd and 8. And Baltimore takes a timeout. It's second.
Boy, what a performance by Harrison so far in this thing.
Sunday Night Football being brought to you by Microsoft Surface, the official tablet of the NFL. By Subway, train hard, eat fresh. By Kia Motors, visit kia.com to learn more. And by Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, rated mature. Created in 1975 by Myron Cope. Local legend, Terrible Towel, manufactured in over 20 different varieties. And, oh yeah, some of Mean Joe's teammates saw Swanee before the game. Of course, Franco Harris is there, and everybody's wearing number 75.
John Stallworth, Mel Blunt.
Even some latter-day Steelers. The bus is here, so Jerome before the game. Bettis. All here to honor Mean Joe.
I think I'd want to know where James Harrison is.
Yep.
Right about there.
3rd and 8. And Flacco going for 6 and incomplete. Intended for Torrey Smith over the top of his head. Antoine Blake was back there covering, and it is 4th down with the field goal unit coming
Almost an incredible catch here, working against Antoine Blake, and just couldn't quite reel that one in. They practiced that, get a little tug of the jersey, could have easily been called, but you can see the official more looking at the catch itself.
Justin Tucker, who's become Mr. Automatic in the last few years, 46-yard attempt to turn it into a 4-point game. And it is good with 1:44 left in the half. So Pittsburgh on top now, 14-10. And let's check in again with Michelle.
Well, you know, Ray Rice's appeal of his indefinite suspension begins Wednesday, Al, in front of an arbitrator agreed upon by both the NFL and the NFL's Players Association. Rice's legal team is expected to argue that he was punished twice for the same incident, and they're expected to seek his immediate reinstatement as well as back pay for games they say he could have been playing. Now, among those testifying will be Ray and Janae Rice, Roger Goodell, Ravens president Dick Cass, and GM Ozzie Newsome, and 4 other people who were present for Rice's disciplinary hearing back in June, Al.
All right, thank you, Michelle. That takes place this week. There was Ozzie Newsome, and of course, the Ravens lost on opening day to Cincinnati on a Sunday, and then all hell broke loose with the Ray Rice scenario with the videotape on Monday. We talked to Flacco and we were talking to Harbaugh last night. And how'd you keep the focus? I mean, the whole world is now at your doorstep. Everybody wants to know what you think. And, you know, Flacco said, hey, we're football players. We had a game. We know how to compartmentalize. And they went out 72 hours later and beat Pittsburgh. Go figure.
I had only one question for him. Did you see the videotape before everybody did of the knockout punch? And they said no.
And they were adamant about it. 5 yards in the end zone. And Blunt thought about coming out and takes a knee. So the 2 quarterbacks tonight, both under duress. Flacco a little over 50%. Ben at 67%, but for only 68 yards. And those 3 sacks against Roethlisberger came back to back to back. Flacco's also been knocked down 3 times. And Ben once.
I'll tell you, we've got a lot of body punches coming here in the first half against these quarterbacks, and Ben's already working on his jaw, and Suggs really hasn't hit him too often yet. Other side, there's Pernell McPhee. Dumerville's gotten him a couple times. Look out.
And Ben has to get it away. Here's Brown. And Brown turning it into a first down after C.J. Mosley came crashing through. Antonio Brown.
Well, C.J. Mosley came at him across this way, and then he basically, Roethlisberger basically threw it to where the blitz was, which is exactly what you want to do. If you see a linebacker come on one side and you've got a receiver in that zone, that's where you want to go. That's the reason the void was there for Antonio Brown.
Clock stopped, 1:38. Pittsburgh has 2 timeouts. Brown has caught 4 passes tonight. He's scored 5 or more in his last 24 games, the equivalent of a season and a half. Ben steps up to avoid the pressure, and that's almost picked off. Intended for Bell. Mosley right there. It'll be 2nd and 10.
Yeah, what they say about C.J. Mosley, half man, half amazing, is the way that Elvis Dumerville described him. Not only good in coverage, but such a dynamic leader. I remember watching him at Alabama, and you could just see the leadership skills jumping off the screen. Of course, there's always going to be a discussion between he and Ryan Shazier. It was Shazier taken just before, and they could have had C.J. Mosley, but as soon as Shazier gets healthy, I think they're going to be happy here too.
2 picks before, one went 15th, one went 17th. That catch is made by Lance Moore, the longtime former New Orleans Saint, for a short game.
And now Ben getting back in that hurry-up offense that I think he loves. To get a chance to call his own plays, get a feel for what's going on, and keep an eye out on, I think that's Pernell McPhee standing up and getting ready to blitz.
3rd and 6. Ben chased out, floats one, caught by Bell. That's a first down. Takes the ball into Ravens territory with 61 seconds.
What a quick move there by Le'Veon Bell coming out of the backfield. He really has some nasty moves on those linebackers trying to cover him. McPhee got close.
And Pittsburgh takes a timeout.
There he is right here. Watch this move. You see it time after time. with Le'Veon Bell. They always want to match up their most athletic linebacker inside in one-on-one coverage. And he has that, they kind of call it the dead leg, where you kind of go out and it doesn't look like much, and all of a sudden a little wiggle and you're gone. C.J. Mosley, a heck of an athlete, and just having a tough time staying with him.
Steelers with one timeout remaining. Ball at the 47. Good, clean pocket. Deep throw. Caught on the run. Wheaton, touchdown. "47 yards, Marcus Wheaton."
The biggest difference in the Pittsburgh Steelers lately has been the play of the other receivers out there. Martavis Bryant, Marcus Wheaton, Lance Moore. They start making plays. You can no longer double team Antonio Brown. Just freeze the safety, Darian Stewart, right down the middle. And that is their best, Ladarius Webb, who got beat by that speedster.
Wheaton scored his first career touchdown last week. He's in his second year in the league and gets number 2 here at the end of the first half, and then stumbling with Sweezan, so they throw it, and it's caught by Spaeth. Wing makes a great play, understanding the situation, getting up, and then turns it into a 2-point conversion.
Just absolutely perfectly done. You always practice this. It's the holder. This is the fire, fire, fire drill. Didn't feel like he could get the kick off. You start yelling, and then it was Matt Spaeth who was alert enough to go find an open spot. Tell you what, this game has a little bit of everything so far.
Officials conferring as you look at Harbaugh.
The old special teams coach, right?
There's Roethlisberger. So on a wing and a prayer. Oh, I didn't say that. I'm sorry.
It's an interesting conversation. Brad Wing grew up in Melbourne, Australia. Wonder how many passes he's ever thrown.
Down to Michelle again.
Well, we saw Troy Polamalu leave the game a little earlier. He went, didn't just talk to trainers, didn't get examined, came right back in the game, Al. But then when he came back off, they were looking at his left knee, and now he has gone to the locker room with team orthopedist Jim Bradley. Now, the Steelers won't have anything official until halftime, but at the moment, Troy Polamalu is in the locker room.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Keep an eye on that, obviously. 53 seconds to halftime. Baltimore gets the ball. They have one timeout. A couple of yards in, Jacoby Jones. And to the 28-yard line he goes. So one timeout in 47 seconds.
Marcus Wheaton out here, and when this safety locks up on this one and this inside technique, right away, Ben knows he has an opportunity over the top. Yes, it's against their best corner, but these young players have certainly stepped up. Marcus Wheaton, a smaller guy, a little bit like Emmanuel Sanders, is maybe a part of the reason they felt like they could let Sanders go this year, doing great things in Denver. But it has been the young receivers that have stepped up in the last few weeks and made such a difference.
And this is a team that let Emmanuel Sanders go, and he's been great in Denver. But they have certainly found the guys to replace him, as that pass is incomplete, intended for Torrey Smith. Blake covering, 2nd and 10.
Starting to get a little bit of a feel now that Joe Flacco is feeling what Ben Roethlisberger was feeling earlier. They are pretty consistently bringing 5-man pressure now, and it has not worked out so well. They've been getting a lot of pressure off that left side. Eugene Monroe, Kelechi Osemele, both have been injured and just came back last week. We'll see if they can continue to hold up.
You look at Will Allen, number 20, the 11-year veteran, who takes Polamalu's place. Pocket collapsing, and down he goes. Arthur Moats, who helped to create the first turnover that really turned the game around early in the second quarter, gets the sack here.
Well, there it is. The left side and the stunt back inside is what has been beating them. Anytime you've been out for a while, some of those stunts in games can give you fits on the outside. And right now, Joe Flacco is starting to look. His eyes are not down the field at that point. He has been under so much pressure. He is starting to look around. And defensively, that's exactly what you want. Arthur Moats starting to play like James Harrison now.
So it's 3rd down and 19. Pittsburgh has just taken a timeout. But they're out of timeout, so if you're Baltimore right now, I mean, if I'm the Ravens, I'm just going to take a knee.
Yeah,
because they can't stop, Pittsburgh can't stop the clock.
Well, I think that's probably the reason that they did it, because they wanted to force a run here. So I don't think they would try and throw a pass on this one, but who knows?
No,
take a chance.
Forsett is the running back. It's 3rd and 19. Pittsburgh will also get the ball to start the second half, and Forsett will take the ball to the 30-yard line, and that's going to take us to halftime. So Baltimore was hot in the first quarter. It took Pittsburgh a long time to get a first down. 2 big turnovers have turned the game around. Pittsburgh with 22 points in the second quarter, and at the half it's 22-10 coming up. As Blunt downs it in the end zone.
Well, Mean Joe Green would have liked this. There was a lot of hitting going on in the first half, and Upshaw sort of dislodged Ben Roethlisberger's jaw with that shot there. McClendon, turnabout's fair play to Joe Flacco. But it was really the emotional James Harrison who came out and I thought set the tone for yet another one of these great rivalries. It has really been something to watch. We have had the good fortune of doing these games almost every year, and it never disappoints.
It's 22-10 Pittsburgh. And the first scrimmage play of the third quarter is a little flip and a yard gain. Will Johnson, the fullback, making the catch. So Baltimore took the early lead, and Pittsburgh got rolling. Flacco with 1 touchdown, 1 interception. You had an interception. You also had a Taliaferro fumble, and that really turned the game around. Ben Roethlisberger with 3 touchdowns, and then he got sacked 3 times on back-to-back-to-back plays. And 22 points, most by either team in any quarter of this rivalry, which goes back to when the Ravens came into the NFL as the Ravens in 1996. Le'Veon Bell, 22-yard line, will be 3rd and long.
Here's a little bit of what we were talking about with Le'Veon Bell as they skirmish a bit on the bottom there. The patience of this guy. He is going to simply sit and wait for something to develop. And the flip side of that is what the Ravens want to do is they don't want to overreact. So they don't want to pick a side, as they put it. We don't want to go 1 for 1. So we don't want one blocker to take care of one of our guys. Sit there, be patient. He's going to be patient. Wait till he comes to you. And so far, it's been working.
3rd down and 8 from the 22. Ben Chase throws, and it's underthrown, but a flag is also thrown as C.J. Mosley is going to get flagged for interference on Bell. And now Roethlisberger starts to get into it with one of the Ravens. Mosley getting into it with Bell. Well, sooner or later, you know what's going to happen.
Dumerville and Suggs had a little meeting at the quarterback here.
Pass interference. Defense number 57. Flag foul. Automatic first down.
This is getting a whole lot chippy out here, and this has been the matchup that's been difficult so far. You've got C.J. Mosley, trying to take on Le'Veon Bell right there. And until they can get Ben Roethlisberger on the ground, anytime you've got somebody under that much pressure, they're going to want to dump it down to the running back. And so that is a key matchup going forward. With the pressure, C.J. Mosley has to be able to win that one-on-one matchup.
Penalty turned a 3rd and 8 into a first down. They get an end around with Wheaton. And Wheaton's going to turn it back, and he turns a loss into a little bit of a gain here up to the 33-yard line. Marcus Wheaton, second-year guy out of Oregon State.
Yeah, that was pretty well played on that one, though, by Courtney Upshaw on the outside. He's a guy that doesn't get a lot of credit. He doesn't end up with the sacks of a Suggs or a Dumerville or McPhee, but he is the hammer on the outside. On 1st and 2nd down, you see him beating up tackles and tight ends on that side, and then Dumerville usually comes in on the pass rush downs to try to go get the quarterback.
Blue 80!
2nd and 6.
Alert, 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 alert! We gotta go. Set!
Got to go because the play clock was down to 1. Pump fake, and the pass is underthrown. Intended for Bryant. He had 2 receivers in the same area. And chippy to say the least.
Okay, Kelvin Beachum is in the fight of his life right there, trying to hold Terrell Suggs off on the inside, and that time does it perfectly. Allows Ben the pump fake. It's, I don't know anybody can do it like that. How the ball doesn't come out of his hands, I'm not sure. But then just came up a little bit short on the pass. Such a huge hand on the football, and he can basically throw it like he's going to throw it 40 yards down the field, and just never seems to slip out.
Now Pittsburgh's going to have to take a
First charge timeout.
Timeout
Pittsburgh.
before a 3rd down and 6. So Roethlisberger this year, you go half the season, all career best in his first 8 games of the year. Of course, interceptions, that means fewest, obviously. TD passes rating 2nd highest in his first 8 games of a season. Of course, he's been doing this since 2004. When you had that great class of Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, and Roethlisberger all drafted in the 1st round. First half, the last 2 games, Indy last week and tonight, that ain't bad, 7-0.
He's still getting sacked. He's been sacked 20 times coming into this ball game tonight. They got him 3 more here. But he has developed a little bit of a system with Todd Haley where he's not getting beat up the way that he once was. This is, I think, his 29th straight start, and that was a major goal because he had a lot of injury issues.
Sacks are down, hits are down, except for the 3 in a row, and that pass is incomplete, intended for Wheaton. So kind of what Baltimore needed to begin the second half after giving up those 22 points in the second quarter. Couldn't get the 3 and out the first time because of the pass interference, but we'll get the ball back now, 4th down.
Yeah, and we've talked about some of the different corners in the game. Shockey Brown in there that time, able to get away with that one, and that was a big get off the field here to start this second half.
5th punt of the night for Brad Wingman. Kobe Jones back. Pulls it in, 24-yard line. Cutting all the way across the field and going backwards. Trying to get around the corner and can't. And winds up going about 45 yards for a run back of 0 after a 48-yard punt. Baltimore with the ball for the first time in the second half. Troy Polamalu, he's in sweats, so clearly he's done for the night. Michelle, what do you know?
Yeah, I talked to Mike Tomlin at halftime. He told me Troy Polamalu is out with a sprained left knee. He'll be replaced by 11-year veteran Will Allen, whom Tomlin told me, quote, knows what's going down. What was going down right there was Polamalu, unfortunately, done for the night, as is linebacker Ryan Shazier. He's also been downgraded to out with that right ankle injury. John Harbaugh told me with all of the pressure Joe Flacco's getting, they've got to get the ball out quicker and make the Steelers pay when they blitz, Al.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. And we'll see what Flacco can do now. If he does indeed get it out quicker. Play fake here, under pressure, dumps it off, caught by Ryan Supernaw, the number 3 tight end, no gain.
Well, this pressure has just been relentless so far against Joe Flacco, and much of it is coming off of the Steelers' right side. Talked about Brett Kiesel, James Harrison, neither one of them on the team to start the season, and yet it has been that old school little magic that's been going to work, this time Arthur Moats, but it has been a rough go for Joe Flacco of late.
2nd and 12, he gets the ball out quickly here, caught. Owen Daniels makes the catch at the 30-yard line, and that'll make it 3rd down and 4 for the Ravens.
Well, one thing about Troy Polamalu, their captain, being out of this game is a certain amount of the X factor is gone. With Polamalu, quarterbacks talk about it all the time. You don't know what they're going to do defensively. He can line up one place and just guess and sprint across the field, and it's up to Mike Mitchell on the back end to cover for him. Well, it won't be like that now with Will Allen and Mike Mitchell in there.
3rd and 4. Flacco to the outside. That's caught. 42-yard line. No, and then Smith is there. The catch is good. It moves the chains, and Torrey Smith, who caught a touchdown pass in the first half, winds up with his 3rd catch of the game.
Watch how quickly Flacco gets it out. It looked like Joe Montana on that one. Hit that 5th step and just throw it. You don't have time to step up. You don't have time for that little hitch. Back foot, throw it. Let's get out of here.
To the ground now. Forsett for a gain of a couple. 2nd and 8.
It just doesn't really feel like either one of these teams have been able to establish a ground game. And coming in for the Baltimore Ravens, I thought that was the most impressive part of this team. But you add some of the hammers back over there on that side. Steve McClendon's back, Brett Kiesel's back, James Harrison has been spectacular. Cameron Hayward's probably been their best pass rusher up till this game. So they're starting to get their defense going.
2nd and 8, and that's caught, and that'll be a 1st down. Owen Daniels, the former Houston Texan, tackled there by Will Allen. 5 minutes into the 3rd quarter, 1st down.
Here we go again. Watch this. So it's virtually impossible to get a sack when the quarterback goes back 5 steps and throws it. And so what John Harbaugh has told Joe Flacco is coming true before his eyes right now, because he has given them no chance for a sack or a hit.
Here's Forsett to the 39-yard line. The Ravens tonight at 16 carries for 62 yards, so they're averaging a little less than 4 yards per tote.
But it's also one of those things now where, as an offense, you know in the second half, defenses start to wear down. And things that don't work in the running game in the first half, more often than not, will in the second half.
Forsett the back, gets it again, tries the right side this time, and picks up maybe 1. Harrison is there. It'll be 3rd and 3 for the Ravens.
James Harrison is just playing off of Brett Kiesel. He's looping around. He's basically letting Kiesel do all the dirty work, which Kiesel loves doing anyway. And then James Harrison is more or less able to guess a little bit and take some shots. So maybe Polamalu and that X factor is gone, but James Harrison and that X factor is very much in play.
Taliaferro is the running back on 3rd and 3. And Flacco pressured, almost sacked, and that's Harrison again. I mean, this is amazing. They let Harrison go. He goes to Cincinnati. Then he winds up retiring, and tonight he looks like he's all world again.
There's Antoine Blake on the outside with coverage against Aiken, and that's pretty darn good. But on the other side, Marlon Brown, Bryce McCain getting it done there. And so James Harrison doing his job first, which is to get a hit on Owen Daniels, and still got back into the play and nearly got a sack.
Ravens are going to line up to go for it. They're in that either-or land here at the 37-yard line. So they won't try a 56 or 57-yard field goal. It's 4th and 3. And the challenge flag has come out from Mike Tomlin.
Pittsburgh is challenging the ruling on the field. The quarterback was down by contact.
All right, they'll take a look and see if he was down. Vinovich goes under the hood, and we'll be back. Calling the field incomplete pass. What Tomlin's doing, challenging that it was a sack. When you go down, the ankle doesn't count, but the shin does. See where the ball is? The shin is going down right there. Ball still in his hand. We think that they're going to call this a sack, which is going to turn a 4th and 3 into a 4th and maybe 12. And instead of Baltimore lining up to go for it, clearly they would punt. So that's one of the reasons that Tomlin sent the challenge flag out. So there is Harrison. Guess who's going to get another sack?
Ankle doesn't count, the shin does. Tell you, it's such an unselfish play by James Harrison too, to take care of his responsibility, to hit that tight end and then still go get the quarterback. He has been remarkable tonight.
So Vinovich taking a long look. Of course, Dean Blandino looking in New York, and now they also want to see where the spot is. It's going to come back to 47, 48-yard line. Here comes Vinovich. Sooner or later.
Harrison out there with Steve Smith Sr. Those are two warriors.
After reviewing the play, the quarterback's left shin was down prior to releasing the ball. It'll be 4th down at the 47-yard line. Pittsburgh has not charged a timeout. And that is their first challenge.
2 sacks tonight for the ageless one, Harrison.
I guarantee you that Steve Smith and James Harrison, that was probably like a presidential debate. They were going back, and Smith was probably saying, no way that was a sack. And then Harrison said, see, told you. They had a good laugh and off the field.
So a 4th and 3 in a situation where they might have gone for it now becomes moot at 4th and 12, and Sam Cook comes in for his 4th punt. Antonio Brown back to receive it.
May actually work in the Ravens' favor if they get a good punt here.
Yeah. But we'll never know. Along with a few other things about it. And Brown is there to call for a fair catch at the 14-yard line. Terrell Suggs came into the league in 03 out of Arizona State. 23rd game against the Steelers. 14.5 sacks. Highest against the Steelers since 82. 11.5 sacks of Roethlisberger plus 5 in postseason.
Such an interesting story, wasn't it, about taking over the locker? They actually had it, John Harbaugh had it boarded up. It didn't matter if there was a guy in there or not. Suggs would take over the locker next to him. Harbaugh would have it boarded up. He would take it down. They went back and forth, and he said finally Suggs just gave up.
Well, he turned the next locker to an electronics store. This is LeGarrette Blount.
Whoa.
Ooh,
whoa. This may start a real fight here.
There was Suggs.
This may get it going right here. Suggs is going to come in and take out sort of the back of the legs of LeGarrette Blount. The crowd saw it. The players may not have, but that was an ugly shot. Tail end of this play, you'll see Suggs go back and take out the back of the legs of LeGarrette Blount.
Personal foul. Unnecessary roughness. Defense number 55. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
I think they're going to say that the whistle had already blown, and so this happened after that, sort of in the hip area. But for the faithful here in Pittsburgh, they don't care. They just saw it, what was in their opinion a cheap shot. The tone has been set here in the second half.
Well, the tone's been going on here for a lot of years when these two teams get together. The winner's going to go to 6-3. The loser's going to be in last place in the AFC North.
I always thought the time you wanted to play one of these two teams was after one of these games.
Yeah. You need a reservation for the training room tomorrow. Standing room only.
Here we go.
So the jawing continues. And the play will continue from the 35-yard line after the personal foul, first down. And Blunt taken down. So Blunt gets knocked down for a loss of 7 to make it second down and 17.
Watch Timmy Jernigan right here. He is just going to take, who is that, Foster? Straight back into the running back. I mean, this Timmy Jernigan, they call him a Warren Sapp-like player, a guy that they don't traditionally draft around here because of the 34 style of defense. And he just took him right back into that one. And Suggs, it's going on now.
And Jernigan played Florida State, their number 2 pick in last spring's draft. Roethlisberger throwing, that's caught by Antonio Brown. And Brown takes the ball up to the 37-yard line. So for a 25th consecutive game, now you got another skirmish and another flag back at the 20-yard line.
I'm telling you, in this rivalry, that will not be forgotten. Vinovich is saying, everybody get off the field. Right. Nobody joins this fray.
Yeah, he was pointing at Blunt. Blunt tried to come back onto the field.
After the play was over, personal foul. Defense number 58. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
That one is on Elvis Doomerville.
Suggs off the edge. Maybe on Bell take a little bit of that. So's Beachum. And Doomerville joins in, and then here comes the flag. So it was kind of the well after the play, that little shove, and that's what got it going. But that was a big penalty.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Ravens are shooting themselves in the foot here. Pittsburgh is now all the way at the Baltimore 48-yard line. And now Vinovich wants to get everything under control here. So he's going to go to both sidelines.
I think he's saying, did you see what led to that? You get the reaction. Did you see what led to that? But I think what Vinovich is probably saying is, Coach, I'm getting ready to throw somebody out of the game.
Yep.
Get your guys together because I'm not letting this game get out of hand.
Now he's going to go to Tomlin. This is like a baseball umpire in a beanball situation, just going to both managers. Pretty good idea, actually, for Vinovich to do this because it was getting out of hand.
Vinovich also doing some listening, letting both coaches vent just a little bit, but I'm sure the message was, next one's gone. Kiesel saying, be smart, guys. Let them give it away. Don't us give it away.
You gotta love Kiesel.
This is so good.
Also, Vinovich wants to give the game a little space and air and time here, too. But Suggs will have none of it.
Suggs is going right over to the Steelers bench and saying, I'm not going anywhere.
So play will resume in a manner of speaking. There's Suggs going over to the bench. Toward the Steeler bench, obviously. And we'll keep an eye on him. We'll keep an eye on everybody from the 48-yard line. Suggs gets taken out of the play, and the pass is incomplete. Mosley was covering on the play. Archer was the intended receiver. 2nd down and 10.
Matt Spaeth, we told you he was the blocker on the outside. He did catch that pass earlier, but that is his job. And not only did he get Suggs on the ground, he gave him a little shot at the tail end of that one as well. Suggs does not come out of the game, though. They rest Dumervil on the other side. And the Steelers feel like that every once in a while, Suggs will have to take a little breather in the middle of the game, and they try to take advantage of that.
2nd and 10, a lot of changes for Pittsburgh in this set, and the play clock is down to 1. And Ben upset because they were getting guys in with 6 seconds left on the play clock. They have to waste a timeout. Baltimore and Pittsburgh, once again, a lot like a street brawl. Certainly it's been that way in the second half. During the commercial, well, the two veterans, one guy's been in the league 11 years, the other guy 12, and know each other well. Like a quasi-peace party. 2nd down and 10 from the 48. Won't last long. Ben going deep downfield, and it's underthrown and incomplete. Intended for Brown. Matt Elam put the pressure on, and back covering on the play was Dominique Franks. It'll be 3rd down and 10 as Ben Arches is back.
Well, they wanted to get after Dominic Franks on the outside. He's the replacement, but there was pressure coming. I think it was Matt Elam that may have made Ben flinch just a little bit here. Didn't quite get the full delivery on that one, and probably lucky it wasn't intercepted.
So 3rd down and 10 at the 48-yard line. Steelers by 12. Play clock going all the way down again. Snap it at 1. Stepping up, throwing over the middle. Brown makes the catch. He gets spun down at the 47-yard line. It'll be 4th down. I started to mention before, Brown has now caught 5 or more passes in each of his past 25 games.
Here's the reason Le'Veon Bell is so popular. Watch the shot on Suggs here as he goes out for the route. Ben Roethlisberger said, you know, you guys talk about him running, you talk about him as a receiver. The reason I love the guy is he's a great blocker. So often he picks up guys I don't see. Pretty effective there.
Wing, this time it's not Jacoby Jones who's back, it is Webb. And he makes the fair catch at the 20-yard line. 5.5 to play in the 3rd. Baltimore with the ball and down by a dozen. Here's Flacco throwing, and catch made, fingertip catch at the 27-yard line by Steve Smith.
I realize we're not there yet, but if you've paid attention to the Ravens this year, you know that when the game is on the line, it has been Steve Smith that has gotten the football. Almost came up with a miraculous play a week ago against the Bengals to win that one late. But pay attention to him now.
He got called for offensive pass interference, and that is caught for a 1st down by the tight end Owen Daniels.
Well, we saw it on the last drive. The adjustment that Joe Flacco is making is just hitting that back foot and throwing it. Owen Daniels starting to become a bigger factor because Troy Polamalu is out of the game now, but they do not want this pressure to continue against Joe Flacco, and that frustrates pass rushers. You get it off that quickly, and they start getting frustrated up front.
And that's tipped, flag thrown, incomplete. Smith, the intended receiver.
Holding. Offense number 72. 10-yard penalty. Repeat 1st down.
It's the left guard, Osemele.
Kelechi Osemele here is going to try to block. I think he's right up there. Try and block against Cameron Hayward, who has been their best rusher. 3 sacks, was the leader before James Harrison went off tonight, but he also has had 18 hurries on the year. Really has developed, not overnight, but here lately has begun to show what they were hoping for.
1st and 20. And nice catch, thrown a little bit behind Aiken. Kamar Aiken, second-year guy out of Central Florida, making the run. That's a gain of 12. It'll make it 2nd down and 8.
Yeah, Kamar Aiken's a guy that's really been back and forth on the practice squad, but they really like his physical presence. A big guy, strong, not afraid to go over the middle, and that was a brilliant catch there.
Got a TD pass earlier this season against Tampa, a game in which Flacco threw 5 touchdown passes in a little over a quarter, and that's Marlon Brown who makes the catch. Blake making the tackle. He's been involved in a lot of action tonight, has Blake coming in at the corner, and it'll make it 3rd down and 4.
I'll tell you have to give some credit to these backup players for the Steelers. Antoine Blake really getting a chance to start not only the injury to Ike Taylor, but Cortez Allen, who has been the starter, got benched. And so now it's Bryce McCain, it's Antoine Blake, it's William Gay, and they've done well tonight.
3rd and 4. And Flacco under pressure, throws caught, but short of the 1st down. Catch is made by Smith. That time you had Cameron Hayward, who almost got the sack. Going to make it 4th down and about 1.5 yards.
Well, it's never a good sign when your 200-pound running back, Justin Forsett, has to pick up a defensive tackle in Cameron Hayward. Joe Flacco, that drive got away from what he did the previous drive, which was get rid of the football. That time pump fakes and all the different things. I know he's trying to make a play, but it looked different.
So the holding call on Assembly made it a 1st and 20, and they can't get out of that hole. 4th and 2 now. Sam Cook to punt for the 5th time in the game. And a fair catch is made there at the 15-yard line by Brown. 2:39 left in the 3rd. Steelers and Ravens on Sunday Night Football. From the 15-yard line, the Pittsburgh Steelers up by 12. LeGarrette Blount in this set starts as the running back. And deep drop, good protection, pass caught, 30-yard line. That's Marcus Wheaton, who had an earlier touchdown, hauling in for a gain of 15.
LeGarrette Blount coming in the game now is going to pick up the blitzer coming right at him and give Ben Roethlisberger time to throw this ball. Le'Veon Bell has really been ineffective tonight. He came in over 100 yards from scrimmage in every game. Thus far tonight, he has 35. So they're going to try and change things up. The patient style of Le'Veon Bell not effective against this front.
And only 7 yards on the ground for him tonight. And a flag. Got a false start against the home team.
False start. Offense number 84. 5-yard penalty. Still 1st down.
Brown a little anxious.
Yeah, it's one of the problems if you're a wide receiver playing at home. When the crowd gets quiet, you can actually hear the snap count. I mean, you're really not used to hearing it. But the crowd tries to take advantage or help the offense a little bit. And that time, Antonio Brown heard too much.
2 minutes to go in the 3rd.
White 80. Hey, easy. Alert, alert. Alert, alert.
Draw, Blunt. And a very short gain here. 2nd down and 13.
Well, C.J. Mosley, athletic enough to get off of this block, but you can see the patience at the line of scrimmage. They're just muddling it up in here, and then it's Mosley coming over late to clean this up. We have really never seen the Pittsburgh Steelers tonight get their running game going. And so it is going to be on Ben Roethlisberger. You have a lead. Old days with the Steelers, you just turn around and hand the ball off, and they won what seemed like hundreds of games that way, but now they're probably going to have to throw it to burn this clock.
They empty it out. They've had 16 runs tonight to 37 yards. Blitz coming, pass caught at the 30, and that's Antonio Brown to the 35-yard line, coming into the game, leading the league in receptions, and second only to T.Y. Hilton in receiving yardage.
You know, it's one of your fears about blitzing this team is that because you have Antonio Brown on the outside, and he's a punt returner. You get him in space. You get Le'Veon Bell in space. And anytime you see Antonio doing that, you got to be careful.
3rd down and 5. 7 catches for Brown tonight. 63 yards. Here we go that way again. Ben has to dump it off, and that's caught. And then picking up the first down is Bell to the 45-yard line. So again, Roethlisberger under pressure, dumps it off low, and Bell makes a nice play to avoid a would-be tackle behind what would be the first down marker.
Todd Haley's going to be so happy. He has been trying to convince his quarterback to do that more often, and for C.J. Mosley tonight, keeping up with Le'Veon Bell in the passing game has been almost impossible.
End of a scoreless 3rd quarter, but fracas filled. To the 4th we go, 22-10. Halfway through the season, and after a scoreless 3rd quarter, we start the 4th. Pittsburgh has a first down at the 45-yard line.
White 80! White, it's on!
And you get some action along the left side of the line.
False start. Offense number 83. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
That's the tight end. That's Heath Miller with the false start. Mike Tomlin took over here. Remember, only 3 coaches going back to '69. You had Chuck Noll, of course, then Bill Cowher came along. He won his Super Bowl. Tomlin won a Super Bowl early on, 2008, went to one other Super Bowl. 42 years old, and already 8 years for Mike Tomlin.
And nobody loves this rivalry more than he does. He said, I hope that veteran players who used to play long ago respect the nature of what we do when we're playing the Ravens.
What? And I find it so ironic, too, that Steve Bisciotti, the owner of the Ravens, when he was looking for a coach, he said, I got to find the next Mike Tomlin. So they wound up and they hired John Harbaugh, which turned out to be a pretty good hire.
Yeah, those 2 guys with the focus on the defensive side of the ball, I think 1-2 since John Harbaugh was hired as far as defensive stops. But in many ways tonight, the story has been Dick LeBeau's defense. Been a lot of things written and said about that side of the ball, and yet they have really stood up here tonight.
And you saw those AFC North standings where every team in the division is above 500, and Roethlisberger throws, and that is Wheaton who can't hang on. The pass is incomplete. But the Cleveland Browns, well, nobody's looking. Meanwhile, 5-3, they won today.
Right here, and for some reason, Marcus Wheaton slowed down just a little bit there, and I don't think Ben was anticipating that. Probably slowing down so he didn't get hammered by the safety. One he really could have had, and that would have been a big one. Now they end up in 3rd down, and you have to see all the weird pressures here.
3rd down, 13. Suggs on the right side of the defense. And again, you've got action.
Neutral zone infraction. Defense number 58. 5-yard penalty. Still 3rd down.
And it's Doomerville. It's just, oh, come on.
Let's take a look and see. I think DeCastro moved on Doomerville's action, and he's 1 removed. It's not an adjacent guy. Kind of an interesting call.
Turns it into a 3rd and 8.
Blue 20. Blue 20.
Ben hanging in the pocket, fires Brown, makes the catch, turns it inside, breaking tackles. Antonio Brown all the way to the end zone. Touchdown, Pittsburgh. "54 yards, pushing Will Hill out of the way along the way."
Shockey Brown in for Jimmy Smith on the outside. No match for Antonio Brown, and you can only say one thing about that young man this year. Wow. When he gets in the open field, and John Harbaugh knew it, he said, if we allow him to get going and be in the open field, we will not get him on the ground, and he showed exactly what Harbaugh was talking about. Some of his touchdown dances are interesting.
That's Ike Taylor, who's on the mend, trying to get back in a week or two. It celebrates with him on the sidelines, squeeze him with the point after, and a minute into the fourth quarter. Brown now over 100 yards tonight, 8 catches, and 29-10 Steelers. Squeeze him. And they're going to run it out from 8 yards in. Jacoby Jones. Try to give him a lift here, and he may have just done that. Across the 50, Jacoby Jones from deep in the end zone stays in bounds, and that's exactly what the doctor just ordered for the Baltimore Ravens. 108 yards for the touchdown.
Jacoby Jones does such a great job selling that he's going here before he goes here. You want that coverage team to condense, and then you get on the outside and you can get going one-on-one. He was untouched, and really nobody got particularly close to him. How many times have we seen it? Jacoby Jones saw it in the Super Bowl and seen it in this rivalry, and they're back in it.
Another guy not getting close to him was Mike Tomlin.
No, that's a good call.
Remember last Thanksgiving with Tomlin on the sideline? Wound up getting a $50,000 fine as Jones went right by him. So 108 yards as Justin Tucker comes in for the extra point.
All those people that were working out towards the exit on the turnaround.
And so all of a sudden a 19-point lead in a flash becomes a 12-point lead. Jacoby Jones, 108 to the end zone, 29-17 Steelers. From the goal line for Garrett Blunt. Tough running to the 29. Well, we talked about Jacoby Jones. Go back to the Thanksgiving night game that we had for you last year in Baltimore. There was Tomlin. Mike in the white. He wound up getting fined $50,000. And it would have been a lot more had he impeded Jacoby Jones, who really never even came that close to the sideline. Maybe thinking about it last year until he got well past the Pittsburgh bench. And 108 for the score.
These games just refuse to be blowouts, don't they? Almost no matter what happens, they have a way of getting close at the end.
I mentioned before, the last 6 games between these teams in this stadium have all been decided by 3 points. And that pass for Brown draws a flag. Darius Webb, illegal.
You know, it's so frustrating, but you're not allowed to get your hands.
Pass interference. Defense number 21. Spot foul. Automatic first down.
I don't think it happened at the point of the catch. I think it happened just before. Let's see if there's a little stab of the arm right there, and then the ball comes in. But right there kind of grabbed Antonio Brown's hand before he went up, and tough playing defense in this league anymore, but that's clearly a foul.
That's 9 penalties tonight for 93 yards against Baltimore. Ironically, Baltimore down near the bottom in penalties coming into the game. Pittsburgh led the league in penalties. But only 4 fouls tonight on the Steelers. And now they give it to Bryant. And Bryant will get thrown into the Baltimore bench by Mosley. There's a guy who played at Clemson. Sammy Watkins was the big guy, obviously, at Clemson. Wound up as the number 4 overall pick going to Buffalo. And But Mr. Bryant got picked in the 4th round here, and they love him in the red zone, especially at 6'4".
Yeah, and he set the FBS record, 22.2 yards per catch. Old record was held by Herman Moore, and yet he's the guy that got very little attention at all, drafted in the 4th round. But it was a great year for receivers in this draft.
Herman, the longtime former Detroit Lion, great. And Antonio Brown will take the ball to midfield. Dominique Franks is there to make the stop. Should be a first down.
Antonio Brown, not a very big guy, but even he gets a little Pittsburgh Steelers action. Of course, it was Antonio earlier this year that did a stiff arm with his leg.
Well, it's not a first down. It's about a half a yard shy. Now this, well, we'll see if this moves the chains.
I tell you, it depends on which official.
Yeah.
The official on this side
he did
ran in for the first down. The official at the top was moving in at least a half a yard back there.
We've seen that before, haven't we? This time they give it to him.
It's sometimes a matter of which guy gets to mark the ball.
Right.
I tell you, I don't know.
Well, Ben just leans forward and
might get a challenge. That's what I thought too. I thought that knee was down short of that mark. At least worthy of a look.
It was a 3rd and 1. So Harbaugh wants Vinovich to look at it. Dean
Baltimore
Blandino,
challenging the ruling of the field. First down.
The boys in New York are already taking a look. Under the hood he goes. And we'll be back, we promise, after this. Vinovich still under the hood. This is a real interesting call here for one reason, because the ball winds up in the logo. You don't have actual yardage markings. You'll see where it winds up when his knee is down. His knee is down there.
And really it's his forearm that ends up down right there. And you can see that is still within the yellow markings of this. But how about that?
Yeah, then he moves it forward.
And then he moves it forward, and now it's outside those gold markings.
Here's the call.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field stands. First down. Baltimore's charged with the first timeout and the first challenge.
And Harbaugh can only shake his head. It's a worthwhile challenge, but how in the world do you determine that? The ball gets obscured. You don't have any true yard line markings.
I thought there was enough evidence. I agree with John Harbaugh. I really did. I thought that one should have been moved back, and the decision put on the Pittsburgh Steelers whether they were going to punt it or not. I totally disagree with that one.
Well, the irony is on the prior play, they originally signaled first down, made it 3rd down. And then that one probably should have been overturned, and they get a first down. And on we go. From the 49-yard line. That pass is off the hand of Heath Miller. Let him too much. 2nd down. Back and look again one more time.
The ball is placed out here, ultimately by the officials on the tip of that yellow. And when this forearm goes down right there, it is nowhere close to the tip of that yellow. And I think because of the markings on the field, and you can use those, there was enough evidence there to remark that ball.
Push it. White 80.
2nd and 10.
White side.
Gets it away quickly. Brown with Heath, the champ, the Heath Miller. Tight end had a 100-yard game last week against Indianapolis. First down.
I don't think Daryl Smith knew quite what hit him. He made this play fake and threw the ball all in one motion. And Daryl Smith never had a chance to react to it. He was just flat-footed. Todd Haley has this offense going how he wants it to go right now. After that 3 straight quarterback sack, Ben Roethlisberger has been getting the ball out of his hand too.
White 80. White side.
Again quickly, Brown with the defender falling down. And that was Ladarius Webb who went to the ground, and Antonio Brown with another catch and another first down.
Ladarius Webb is complaining to the official that this time Antonio Brown pushed him. And there you could see it. And it was Jimmy Smith in the first matchup between these two teams that predominantly had the coverage against the top receiver in the National Football League. And right now, Ladarius Webb really has been no match, but he had a pretty good point on that one.
Brown 70 catches in a little less than 9 games. 10 tonight, 10 last week, 11 straight games with 80 or more yards and receptions. And fighting his way for a gain of a couple is Bell with a shove at the end. You get Suggs in front of the Pittsburgh bench.
Well, I tell you, I will give Bill Voinovich some credit on this thing. When he stopped the game and warned both benches, it pretty much ended, didn't it?
It did. He gave it air and space and time. Went to both, you know, as I said, like the baseball manager who goes, where the umpire goes to both managers and says, okay, we're going to throw somebody out of the game. Knock it off. Drop. Brown. 3rd and 9.
Those little quick screens have been so much a part of what this offense has been about. They still want those Ben plays where he scrambles around and guys try to grab him and make a play, but they want the higher percentage of these plays to be ones where he's not holding the ball. Let Antonio Brown and company do the work.
3rd down and 9. Over the middle, Roethlisberger throwing, Bryant, touchdown. Martavis Bryant, inactive for the first 6 games. He's played in a little less than 3 NFL games. He has 5 touchdown receptions.
Ben Roethlisberger did this totally with this pump fake. You move to safety, you freeze him right there, you come back, and he just can't get there. Ben, out of the spread formation, gets a chance to work the safety in the middle of the field. And I tell you, this Martavis Bryant, they don't want to put too much on his plate, but I don't know. I think I'd be piling it on like a Thanksgiving dinner.
Sweezen for the point after. 5 touchdown passes for Roethlisberger. Over 300 yards through the air. 11 in 2 games, and it's 36. So Ben Roethlisberger, 6 touchdown passes last week, 5 tonight. 11 in 2 games. Tom Flores was the first to do it, the Oakland quarterback back in '63 in the American Football League. Those records count in the NFL book, and Tom Brady did it in '07. In each instance, the guys had 6 in one game and 5 in the other. And Ben isn't done tonight. Jones, who ran one back, 108. This time gets taken down at the 25-yard line. 9.5 to play in regulation, and the Pittsburgh Steelers red hot, 36-17. They have the ball at the 24-yard line, and Flacco throws. They set up a screen for Set, and he gets a first down before being pushed out of bounds, gain of 11.
Cameron Hayward a little slow to get up, and now you'll see Joe Flacco and company, I would assume, get into the hurry-up mode, but they don't. Vic LeBeau's had a fantastic night. Here's Hayward on the back. Oh, jeez. There's Kelechi Osemele. Those blindsiders.
Clock down under 9 minutes. Flacco throws that pass incomplete, intended for the tight end Owen Daniels. 2nd down and 10 for the Ravens.
I'll tell you, there are two guys, in my opinion, tonight that really took over this game at various points. James Harrison, obviously, on the defensive side, and Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, he was taking some brutal shots early in this one, and you just began to wonder, would he flinch? Would he, in some way, lose his focus? Instead, his focus became more lasered, and they end up being just sensational, over the top the last 2 weeks.
Well, they sacked him 3 times tonight on successive plays, and Flacco throws, and that's caught by Torrey Smith for a short game. Play ended right there. And James Harrison, the once retired James Harrison.
Yeah, I think the Ravens wish he were still retired. He has just brought a new intensity. You didn't see this kind of intensity. And I think the bigger thing may be that he is training some of these younger guys, he and Brett Kiesel, how to play the Pittsburgh Steeler way. And that's how you do it right there. And the emotions of some of these younger guys, the Arthur Moats and the Cameron Haywards and the Jason Worlds, have followed.
3rd and 9. And he's going to go down.
And Lawrence Timmons.
And Lawrence Timmons is there, and the ball is down. So Lawrence Timmons comes in for the sack. That's 4 sacks. Harrison has 2 of them. Harrison is the AARP player of the week right now.
Antoine Blake on the back end, got that one. Here's William Gay, who's had a nice game. Steve Smith's been very quiet tonight. And when you get that kind of coverage, the quarterback has to pull it down, and the sacks get home. You don't get sacks very often without great coverage on the back end. And some of these no-name guys for the Steelers tonight, Antoine Blake, Bryce McCain, they have stepped up. William Gay.
Cook's punt will bound out of bounds at the 24-yard line. The North standings, Detroit is on top 6-2. Then there's Green Bay. Minnesota wins today. They beat Washington. And the Bears at 3-5. So Green Bay and Chicago both off this week, come off the bye next week. One of the great rivalries in the history of this league. Bears-Packers from Lambeau on Sunday Night Football.
Rivalry month here on NBC, right?
Yeah,
we have all kinds of great rivalries.
Dallas and the Giants coming up later in the month. New England, Indy. Seattle, San Francisco on Thanksgiving night. This is Le'Veon Bell. Ravens, meanwhile, the Ravens go home next week to take on Tennessee. Then they have a bye. Then they go to New Orleans, and that's going to be obviously tough. Then trying to get down there. They get San Diego at home, go to Miami, Jacksonville at home, at Houston, and Cleveland at home. So they play alternately home and away. Meanwhile, the Steelers will play 4 of their next 5 games on the road. So this is a big game for Pittsburgh, obviously, tonight. Knowing they face 4 out of 5 away.
Yeah, but they're smoking hot right now, too.
2nd and 5. Bell. Gain of 4. There's a guy missing the first 6 games this year, inactive, just working his way into the system and the whole thing, and a couple of little injuries. And second NFL player, 5 TT catches in his first 3 career games. The 6'4" rookie out of Clemson.
And I think that's the key, Al, that he's a big guy. He's the 6'4" target. He's the guy that Ben Roethlisberger said, I don't have to be perfect in the red zone to get him the ball. The other guys, you've got Wheaton, you got Antonio Brown. They're not that big physical kind of guy. He's 6'4". Look out.
Well, Roethlisberger drops it. So it was 3rd and 1. If they recover, it's just 4th down here. Still no signal, except from Pittsburgh, where Marcus Gilbert says, we got it. Well, Baltimore says, we've got it. We've seen this for 60 years, haven't we? At least 70, 80. How old are you?
Not that old. Close.
Are you older than James Harrison? All right, we're still trying to figure out who's got it.
This may be the longest umpire I've ever seen. This might be one of those 50-50 balls.
Well, you got D'Angelo Tyson is at the bottom of the pile. Kelvin Beacham's at the bottom of the pile.
I'm going to give it to the Ravens.
The Ravens. So on a 3rd and 1, Roethlisberger with a fumble coming away from center.
Just never got control of it. And then that thing's underneath about 2 tons of men, and it just kept sort of kicking around down underneath. And a lot of times the guys that are playing don't even realize it's down there. They're just fighting, and DeCastro was sort of finishing his block. I'm not sure he ever saw that. Take that back. That's Kelvin Beacham there. They just never saw it. Right next to him.
So the Ravens with, anyway, a last gasp here, 3-possession deficit, 36-17. We'll see if they can knock it down to 2.
Well, they have one-on-one action up there with Steve Smith. And they just have not been able to get him the football.
Smith 4 catches for 63 yards tonight, and Antoine Blake has done a really nice job on him. And Flacco to the end zone, adjusting, incomplete, intended for Smith. That time he had Harrison putting the pressure on again on Flacco, forcing the throw.
James Harrison has been out of control here tonight, and Eugene Monroe just no match whatsoever for him. I've seen James Harrison play some spectacular games, but for the circumstances of this, well, Antoine Blake's played a game tonight too. He has been the straw tonight. There is no doubt about it. He has stirred the Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
And you saw that note there. He's the second oldest defensive player in the league right now. Second only to Charles Woodson now with Oakland. Daniels makes the catch, takes the ball to the 25-yard line. Timmons makes the tackle there. It'll be 3rd down and 2.
It does make a difference when Owen Daniels is in there, and I'm a little surprised we haven't seen more balls thrown his way, especially when Polamalu went out of the ball game. But give some credit on the back end. Will Allen came in, and it has not really impacted this defense.
3rd and 2. And drop. Make 4th down and 2. Forsett was the intended receiver. So 4th down and 2 for the Ravens. Three-man rush, and they convert. So that's a 1st down as Marlon Brown makes the catch at the 20-yard line, tackled there by Bryce McCain.
Well, big play for Marlon Brown. You know, so many of these receivers since Steve Smith has come to this lineup have not had anywhere close to the kind of year that they had a year ago, and Marlon Brown's one of them. He had 7 touchdowns last year and barely a factor this year.
Under 4.5 to play. Flacco. And just throws that one out of bounds, stopping the clock at 4:15. 2nd down and 10.
Well, the pressure's obviously been there all night long, but let's give credit on the back end. William Gay has really sort of established himself. Bryce McCain got beat on that ball early, but Gay really has had no issues to speak of, and sometimes you make a play like he did a week ago with that pick 6 over there against the Colts, and quarterbacks tend to shy away from you, but the coverage has been good. These young players for the Steelers have really done a job tonight.
2nd and 10. They blitz, and paying the price. Smith, then he pays the price to the extent he can't even make the catch. Blake is there, incomplete, 3rd down.
Totally just reading the receiver here. If you make some kind of double move, maybe you end up in a touchdown. But right there, as soon as he saw the break, he broke on the ball and just timed that one perfectly. Sometimes young players, if they can get a little something good happening to him, he had his first career interception last week against the Colts, and you can see his confidence building. And there's the guy whose place he took, Cortez Allen.
3rd and 10. Flacco dancing, throwing. Forsett makes the catch and gets tackled at the 3-yard line. Setting up a 1st and goal as we go down under 4 minutes in the 4th.
Kelechi Osemele, the guard, is just going to take James Harrison to the ground, which is what allowed Joe Flacco enough time to work that pick play on that one.
Go.
1st and goal. And Forsett to the 2-yard line. We're going to have to go.
Well, you want to try and man up and run the football here, but you've got a lot of work to do. And every time you run it, the clock keeps ticking. You need a little more urgency here. They've got a lot of work here.
And that will be dropped with a flag coming in. And again, it's Blake with Torrey Smith, the intended receiver.
Pass interference. Defense number 41. Foul occurred in the end zone. The ball will be placed at the 1-yard line. Automatic 1st down.
Call on Blake. It'll be 1st and goal.
I think it was right off the release. Right there, kind of gets his arm wrapped around him. Good call by the official.
From the 1 now. Play action and wide open, and making the catch for the touchdown is Crockett Gilmore, the rookie from Colorado State, with a big spike to the consternation of the crowd. And now you got a little skirmish again breaking out, and flags come in. Of course, Harrison in the middle of it. Kiesel right there as well. And now
I think you're going to want to go for 2 here,
yes,
Al. So this could impact this depending on what happens.
Absolutely, because you want to make it 11 points.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness. Offense number 53. You're 15 yards on the ensuing kickoff. Touchdown's good.
So that's on the center, Jeremy Zuda. So the penalty is assessed on the kickoff, which is a very big break for the Ravens, because they can now attempt a 2-point conversion from the conventional spot to try to make this an 11-point game, which of course would be a 2-possession game. You get a field goal, you get a touchdown, and a 2-point conversion, and you're right there. Bottom of the screen catch. There's Zuda coming in, taking a shot. He gets the flag. And now Flacco leads him up to the 2-yard line for the 2-point conversion.
What we got?
And they're trying to run it in. And does he get in? No. Taliaferro. And now you got another flag, and they got another penalty here. And once again, things starting to get out of control, as was the case earlier in the half.
Depends on who's this against.
Kiesel.
After the try, unsportsmanlike conduct, taunting. Pittsburgh.
Could be anybody.
Number 98. That would be enforced also on the kickoff. They'll offset at the 30.
That's Vince Williams. So the 2-point conversion is no good, keeping it at 13 and meaning that Baltimore would have to get 2 touchdowns.
Well, Brett Kiesel kind of did it with his backside.
Yeah.
Had the butt fumble. We just had the butt tackle there by Brett Kiesel. But his locking down on the goal line and being refused to move forward really is what made the play.
Yeah, well, Kiesel's been around a long time. One of the stalwarts on this defense, but they were going to let him go. He was going to retire. Bruce Arians, who was here as the offensive coordinator for a number of years and now, of course, is at Arizona, called him, said, come on, I got a spot for you in Arizona. So with some reluctance, Kiesel is going to go to Arizona, sign with the Cardinals, but his heart is in Pittsburgh, where his family was. He changes planes in Atlanta. By the time he gets to Phoenix, the Steelers called and said, you know what? We got some space for you here. How about if you take this deal? So he never even got to the Cardinal facility. He just turned around in Phoenix and came back to Pittsburgh and signed with the Steelers again.
He said, I just couldn't take it. You know, my kids, I woke them all up at 5 o'clock in the morning and took them to the airport, and everybody's crying and nobody's helping. The kids can't understand exactly what's going on. He said, I got so much anxiety as I was going to the airplane. I started sweating through my shirt. And he actually made a phone call back to Kevin Colbert and said, don't you have something? And by the time he got to Arizona, he did.
By the time I get to Phoenix. Meanwhile, you got an onside kick attempt that's going to go out of bounds here. After it travels about 6 yards.
Had a chance. Will Johnson, I think it was, came up and hit that ball early. So it was a live football, but then bounded out. I think this is Will Johnson, 46, who's going to come up and try and make an aggressive move to it.
So it's
bounces
live right
off
there.
of him. Yeah, everything's live at this point.
The ball was last touched by the receiving team. Pittsburgh's ball, first down.
Had Baltimore been able to recover inbounds, it would have been theirs, but instead it belongs to the Steelers. The Ravens have 2 timeouts. They lost one on the unsuccessful challenge. And Roethlisberger takes over at the Raven 41-yard line.
White 80. White 6.
Bell, with some patience, looking for something to develop. So Bell's been held in check tonight. You would think on a night when the Ravens took care of the Pittsburgh running game, as Baltimore takes a timeout, that they'd be in Fat City. But instead, tonight, +1 in the turnover department. That was big. 36 points, 3 red zone touchdown conversions. Mr. James Harrison out of the rocking chair and into the starting lineup.
And really, if you've watched both games, you would say that's been the difference. James Harrison on that side, and the development of these young receivers for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Martavis Bryant and Marcus Wheaton. Those guys now make this offense look very different.
White 80. White 7.
And Ben throws, and seeking the first down, but coming up a little bit short is Brown. Let's go to Michelle.
James Harrison told me, Al, that after he retired in September, he thought there was a 0% chance of him coming back to the NFL. Then came the calls from Tomlin and Ike Taylor and Brett Kiesel and Troy Polamalu. So he had to clear it with his 2 young sons. At first they said, no, Dad. But when they heard it was Pittsburgh rather than going back to Cincinnati, they gave their dad an enthusiastic, yes, Dad.
That came right after the Carolina game, a Sunday night game, and they lost Jarvis Jones. They lost Shazier, so they were strapped for linebackers. And on 3rd and 1, this is Blunt going nowhere.
C.J. Mosley, right?
The timeout is taken here, or is it? We're going to go to the 2-minute warning before timeout can be taken, I think.
This is the 2-minute warning.
There is the 2-minute warning. So you have 1:59 remaining in Pittsburgh, where the Steelers are up 36-23.
Wide side.
Roethlisberger on 4th and 2, and it's caught on the run, and going into the end zone is Matt Spaeth. And that is 6 touchdown passes for Roethlisberger for the 2nd week in a row.
I don't want to be Scrooge. I'm not sure his knee wasn't down. That's really close.
33 yards on a 4th and 2. Of course, all scoring plays reviewed, so they will look at it to see if he indeed gets in. Spaeth, Smith is there. Where's the ball when the knee goes down?
Spaeth without a catch coming into this one.
There's the knee, so where's the ball?
The previous play is under review.
That's the record, right?
Well, it'd be 12 and 2 games.
Yeah.
It's a pair of 6s. Knee down, where's the ball?
Can't tell. Touchdown.
Yeah, I think it is. For any part of the ball, just you have to get just to the front of the goal line, and that's the end zone.
So Matt Spaeth, no catches coming in. That was really a great play call on the part of Todd Haley. He sent Antonio Brown across the field from left to right and then snuck Spaeth out the other way. And Darryl Smith, obviously thinking run, just never saw it. You get Brown going this way and Spaeth, after a big delay, going back that way. Looks like run, right? And now Spaeth is going to sneak out of there.
Well, I don't see any evidence to overturn this. By the way, Spaeth also had that 2-point conversion earlier on the problem that Sweezum had on the extra point. I see nothing to overturn this. That's going to be 6 touchdowns if it stands. 12 and 2 games on the season. Roethlisberger will have 22 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Tain't bad, McGee.
Hands. Touchdown.
You were exactly right, Al. There was nothing to overturn it. It wasn't confirmed. It stands, which means there wasn't enough to overturn it.
Well, how much do they love Todd Haley now? Of course, there was a lot of consternation here in Pittsburgh when they let Bruce Arians go. He wound up going to Indianapolis and did a phenomenal job there when Chuck Pagano got sick, leading to his role in Arizona, where he's now the #1 seed at the moment in the NFC with the Cardinals. And then Haley came in. Took a while to change the offense and get things together. And you go back to, we did that game in Carolina. There's another flag. Here you go again. Well, it's the Steelers and the Ravens.
Anthony Levine's getting double teamed by the kicker and the punter.
Yeah, you got Vinovich going over there and telling the kickers to get out of there. Steelers making sure the crowd gets completely into it. Of course, they will be the victors.
After the try, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, offense number 72, 15-yard penalty on the kickoff. Try is good.
And that's Cody Wallace. Be a few fines coming out of this one tonight.
It's one of those times in the game when you get a personal foul and you get over and everybody high fives you.
You know, it's a strange thing to say, but, you know, I'm looking at it this way, Chris, with this officiating crew. There are some times when the officiating crew lets the game get out of hand and they're to be blamed. I think Vinovich and his crew have actually done a pretty good job tonight, despite all the nonsense that's gone on.
official's going to have to spend a little time in the hot tub here.
Yeah. But I mean, they started to get out of bounds earlier in the third quarter, and Vineyard's got them calmed down, and now, of course, it's garbage time, so you get a lot of garbage time.
You just wouldn't have believed it if you watched the first game that this one was going to be this one-sided the other way. But for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have come a long way, baby, since that second game of the season.
Remember that on opening day against Cleveland, they had a big first half. Then they went over 8 quarters without scoring a touchdown. Second half against Cleveland, the whole game against Baltimore, the first half at Carolina. Over 8 quarters without a touchdown. Now last week they get 51. Tonight they get 43, 94 points in 2 games.
Well, you know it's a strange night when even the kickers are getting involved in the fight.
Oh, yeah.
Brad Wing, the punter, Sean Sweezum, and got to get those tough guy kickers out of here. You just back down. Roethlisberger loves it. That may have been the moment of the game, though, don't you think? When Roethlisberger was getting hit time after time, it looked like he hurt his jaw, and he's kind of, but he hung in there. They got those 2 turnovers back to back, and this game completely changed.
Check down underneath. Taliaferro gains 5. Ravens home next week against Tennessee. Then a bye. Then to New Orleans. Going to leave here 5-4, and Pittsburgh's going to leave here with a mark of 6-3.
Yeah, maybe more importantly for the Ravens, though, they've lost twice to Cincinnati already, and now a loss in the division to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the team you better keep your eye on is the Cleveland Browns. They get a shot at the Bengals on Thursday night.
Ravens have already beaten the Browns in their 1 meeting thus far this season, and the season will end with Cleveland at Baltimore. And Pittsburgh's season will end with Cincinnati here on December the 28th.
You know, I just really feel like, Brett Kiesel hit on some key things, I thought, when we were talking with him about LeBeau's defense is very complicated, and you have to study the details of everything for a game plan. And maybe those 2 veteran guys coming back in the building, James Harrison and Brett Kiesel, has just awakened the old spirit of this defense. They're teaching them how to study, how to prepare physically, mentally.
Timeout. Baltimore. Please reset the game clock to 27 seconds. 2-7.
Baltimore takes a timeout for whatever reason. I have no idea.
Well, we talked about it. 3 straight plays. Ben Roethlisberger was sacked, and you just saw the shot there to the head. His jaw was sore, but he would just keep hanging in there. And then the young receivers started taking over this game. And as much as you want to try and focus in on Antonio Brown, you just can't do it anymore. Martavis Bryant, Marcus Wheaton have begun to balance the deck a little bit for this offense.
And a near sack there. Jason Worlds coming in. Second down and 10.
Jason Worlds, only a couple of sacks, but he leads this team in quarterback hits this year, coming off the edge on the outside. And he's sort of one of those rock solid guys out there. The numbers haven't quite been there as far as the sacks go, but he is one of their better players.
23 seconds remaining. Hard to believe. You think back to it took Pittsburgh almost the entire first quarter tonight to get their first down. And now as we wind down to the end, they're going to wind up with 43 on the scoreboard. And with the clock ticking down, Baltimore will run one more play, maybe two more, as Flacco spikes it. The crowd says, come on, man, we want to go home.
Not so sure Joe Flacco doesn't want to go home. Almost feel obligated to take that shot. But this has been, boy, it really looked in the first quarter like it was going to be one-sided the Ravens' way, and a couple of turnovers, and it just completely flipped.
Well, it's Sunday night, so we have a 20-point margin. What else did you expect? One of these days, Marlon Brown, and that will end the game. Game had a little bit of everything. A lot of great plays. A lot of chippy stuff. A little bit of nonsense, but it all ends with a 43-23 Pittsburgh win over Baltimore.